But wait, no, is it one? Yeah,
Oh, oh well.
yeah.
Hello.
Hey, man, how you doing?
Hi.
It's
It's a
been a while.
thing.
It is a thing. It is. It is. It's a thing we do every
It's
week.
been tens and tens of hours since we spoke last.
Yes, and I'm almost tempted to say, did I do the numbers correct? It is episode 19, right? Am I supposed to be 19 or is it 18? No, it's 19, right?
We can say it's 19. You know, the thing is, what's funny is like those of us who make like videos and podcasts and things. For some reason, we care about
The number.
episode numbers. Like,
Yeah.
is anyone really like kicking back and like, well, you know what I really liked was that conversation they had in episode 6. You know, like no
We are
one.
not Star Trek. We are not. We are not.
There is
We are
no
not a saga. It would be
compendium
funny. Yeah,
of
yeah.
podcast episodes that people are. There's no
Yeah.
Wikipedia.
Back in episode 7. Back in episode 7.
Oh,
Those are the funny times. Yeah. Now
continuity,
it's
continuity. They said this in episode 9, but then in episode 13 they said something different, and
I
then they reversed the
cannot wait.
polarity of the electron
Yeah, no, no,
flow.
no, totally, totally. And it'd be like, but Juan said he couldn't do that back then, and suddenly that power manifested itself. It'll be one of those shows critique. It was like dissecting episode 22 or episode 19 of Best of Our Week.
And
On
so
this week,
I am actually that guy who owns. There was a series of books written called I can't remember what they're called now. I've got them over in the bookcase in my bedroom, but it's basically from classic Star Trek through Next Generation, where they go through every like plot hole, missed like inconsistency, incongruity. They talk about the Prime Directive in this episode, but then he breaks it in this one. All of like the bloopers and stuff.
Oh my god!
I was actually that kid, when Next Gen was out, where I like, wait a minute, but in this one episode, Data is using contractions. How you can't use contractions? This is such a flaw. I can't even watch this.
Exactly. What kind of crap writing are we getting this week? No, I know. But I can promise you this much: there is no writing good enough for the quality of the stuff that you're going to get tonight with us.
Nope.
No, we're doing it live, just exactly as Gary said. We're doing it live.
Doing it live.
Greg is with us tonight. I say Vince is in there. Michael Peppertech, Michael Corcoran. I think I said that right. Yeah. Vince is in there. Sebastian's in there as well. And again, everybody's hanging out with us, which I really want to say thank you very much. I did skip last Saturday morning with tech. Unfortunately, I wasn't feeling well. Took me a couple of days. I was actually kind of surprised, but I mean, Monday was better. It was I would say that much. Monday was definitely better. And
I think
going
I had
back
kind
into
of a similar experience to you. I mean, it was like the day of, I was a little stiff, I was a little achy. The day after, I was laid out.
I felt like somebody drove a car over me. Yeah,
I was barely functional the day after, and then the day after that, I woke up feeling so much better. But it was like mid-afternoon, right around lunchtime, I hit this wall, and then I was just done.
It's
same
weird.
thing. Like every day, I've been able to push that wall a little bit further.
It gets better day by day, and it definitely, yeah, definitely it'll be okay. So short answer, we're better. We're over the crapshoot that was last weekend, and I actually kind of rested. Took a little bit of time, and then, of course, as things can actually go down and be bad, on Tuesday morning. It was a weird situation, but the short answer is I nuked my PC in the back, my desktop PC, my daily worker. So for everybody's reference, I mean, I do use a laptop for the live stream and so on, but it's not my production system. It's not my gaming rig, my everything. 90% of the time I'm spending on the PC behind me. And in the hopes of updating my BIOS to the latest version that was available on the site, I apparently destroyed my motherboard because the processor that I was upgrading for, or making sure that I was, the system was ready for, so that I can purchase the new processor, should have been in the system when I was updating. And I don't know how that would have happened because I couldn't have installed it. My motherboard didn't support USB flashing without a CPU. So it bonked the motherboard. And luckily my CPU was not toasted because for a few days I was out. So I ended up having to buy a separate motherboard, but I'm trying to get my other motherboard repaired, although I'm not sure why at this point. Because
it's worth getting it in there. It's so funny. I mean, like I kept like an old like 6-core Intel motherboard and chip for years, but it was one of those things, is like better to have it and not need it
Mhm.
than not have it and need it. So
Or and I could
I,
totally use the board itself. I mean, I have an 1800X Ryzen that I can use, so totally compatible. Those things are generally backwards compatible, anyways. For I think there's that
mhm,
Ryzen Gen. I think it was for Ryzen 2 and above. But with the X570, at least here now, I'm way overproofed on the design. So I'm still using the same 3900X. Luckily, like I said, the CPU's not having any problems. It's acting a little funny, but I think it's because of the drivers. um, I booted it up with everything that was from the other motherboard, with everything installed for
mm,
that. But
mhm.
because I went with the same brand, because I'm a little bit of glutton for punishment since I've had that's just a bad experience. But it's not their fault entirely. It's more at the time when I was buying it, I think I decided to go a little bit cheaper on the board. I didn't want to spend as much. And I did not pay attention to the dual BIOS feature, the backup BIOS function, which I used to have on my old Asus motherboard, which so I had Asus, I went to Gigabyte, but I didn't realize that the one that I purchased, I think it was like 170 or so, didn't have backup BIOS. Which means if you're ever having a bad flash on a BIOS, the system automatically tricks and goes to side B or image B, and you're back into the system. So that's why the other board is fried. The BIOS got fried with a beta, I guess.
And that's what's kind of it's always what's kind of concerning about, sort of rolling your own workstation, is
Mhm.
you go and you do your due diligence to keep everything up to date.
Yep.
I'm gonna make sure my BIOS is up to date. I'm gonna make sure this stuff is working, and then it's like you've got to comb through fine print to see that, oh, by the way, this was a beta BIOS for something that doesn't apply to you, and it's gonna wreck you if you don't pay attention. And
Exactly.
you're like, I feel like that shouldn't be.
It shouldn't. My thought was like, if it's a beta, you should have it in either a beta section or clearly call it a beta. And the IT lady, when I spoke to them, she's like, "Well, it had a C next to it," and I said, "Okay, that just told me it was Ref C. It didn't tell me it was a beta. It doesn't C doesn't indicate beta. I mean, I know now, obviously, now that anytime there's a letter after any kind of download that I'm downloading for a version of a BIOS for Gigabyte, it means it's a beta. I should just go to the one
I,
prior to it.
look,
That's a yeah."
could their website just have like
Any wording,
different colors?
something.
Like a red flashing BIOS is like a really super alpha, and you shouldn't
Exactly.
install unless you're like a crazy glutton for punishment. And then like if you move your mouse cursor over a beta, it like klaxons,
Exactly. Or something like
sirens go
warning,
off.
assigning, yeah, and papers
Danger,
and
Will
signing and all of
Robinson,
that.
danger.
It
Just like
was
old, like, like dial-up internet web pages would have like soundboards and like flashing light GIFs and stuff like that. I feel
I
like
missed those days. Yeah.
I feel
It's
I feel like we've got tools to solve this problem,
I feel like
and
it's
not
2021, and yeah, their approach to buy it. I feel like if there's one
it's
thing about
current
cooking,
year, TK. It's
it
current year, and they
and it
still
was
haven't
my fault.
fixed
Well,
labeling
so
BIOSes.
weird enough,
BIOSes
biases, biases.
is the plural of BIOS? Okay, anyway, sorry.
Biases. Do they
The
have a bias
your
against biases?
bias.
The bias.
It
Um,
has been that kind of
it
week. I'm
it was
so
one of
wiped out.
yeah, dude. I went through a scare because the lady was explaining to me that I could have potentially destroyed my CPU. So Greg was actually commenting prior that I mean I have a 30, so the 3900X for me right now just to buy it is I think, I mean, so just to say this, PC hardware is crazy scarce and expensive. 90% of the latest processors, GPUs, CPUs are not available anywhere, and you can
Mhm.
only buy them from resellers, and they're demanding a premium for anything that you'd want to be able to get. So for me, it was like my worry is that okay, so the motherboard's going to be 400, the processor's going to be 700, and I'm like, okay, for a bad BIOS flash that Gigabyte is not covering any because they're saying, well, this was a beta and you messed it up. I'm like out of it, so I can't really. I took the route, the least, I guess the least risky route. So I decided just to get a motherboard first without jumping on the CPU. And
Yeah.
luckily it's booting up. Now I have to go clean up some drivers, uninstall the old Gigabyte stuff, install the new Gigabyte stuff that's installed for the X570 because it's a different generation too. I think the old board is a 470 and this one is a 570. So it's a
Mhm.
generational upgrade. Uh, but the going through having to try to find CPUs, other Ryzen CPUs, it was crazy. Like, and the markups are crazy, crazy. Like Amazon
Yeah.
overpriced. So,
I
um,
mean, like it was when you told me that this was going down, like I know it wouldn't really fill in the gap, but knowing that you might have been on hold for like 3 weeks for them
I,
to diagnose a motherboard, I was like, I've got my old Razer laptop. Uh, I've got that ninth gen Core i9 Nook. It's got a 1660 Super in there. You could probably work off that.
I would have,
I
dude.
was like, I could drive to your house
No, no, no.
right
I was trying to,
now.
and
I've
so
got an old PC. I know I've got something I can give you.
I have some older laptops too, my old MSIs and stuff. So I fired up the old MSI and it was just chuckling along. It was like barely, like took forever to update. Took things moving
Yeah.
was like it's
I
the
gotta say, when I did that creator laptop, that MSI, and I was really sad, like I had just sent that back.
Mhm.
I my MSI contact like left, and then they never got back to me to give me a return label, and I just got this really passive aggressive email from them. It's like, I think it's about time you sent that laptop back, and you're like, check your emails. I don't want
Oh,
it here anymore. You
please
won't
get
send
please.
me a label. Send me the label. It's a
It's
great laptop, but it was also it's like, oh, if this had happened to you like 2 days sooner, I
I would
could
have
have
been
like,
like,
hey guys, MSI, you want some additional coverage? TK Bay is in a pinch, and he'd really like to check out the creator focus laptop.
dude,
But it
that
was
would
already
have
back in the mail, so I couldn't
yeah,
have.
no, no, it would have it would totally been a lifesaver. And so it's the short version of it. I got the board this afternoon, popped it in. Unfortunately, the NVMe. So there's three NVMe slots on the board, and the smallest of the three, because there's usually the shorter one that's in my main drive. The screw on the cap on it is somehow either broken or somewhat. The it's weird. Like I've never bought motherboards from Amazon before. Generally, I get them from Newegg, but this one looked like it was an open, like it was no seal. Usually, I like it. I get them sealed with a label or whatever. So I opened it up.
Mhm,
Everything seemed fine. Um, but the screw for that part of the NVMe was broken, so I couldn't tighten it back. So if I had put my NVMe, it'll be like just flapping there, and I don't
mhm,
like that. So I put that in the one of the other slots, and I put it in for an exchange. But at least I know it works. So it's it's a better solution than what I had before. Oh, and
mhm.
the plus, it has gigabit 2.5, not 10, not 10 bit. So I slightly
Oh,
higher.
nice.
So it's a slightly better throughput on the network speed, which it actually has two Ethernet ports. Back I missed those. Um, if you
I
ever
had to
buy a
put in a
motherboard,
card on mine, so it's hilarious. I think I have 3
three
Ethernet
Ethernet.
ports on the back of my workstation now because the board had dual, and you're like, "Hey,
Yeah,
that's really cool." But I want better than gigabit, and so
yeah,
I got a 10 gig NIC
yeah.
and pop that in there just because it's ridiculous overkill and I love it.
I
But
absolutely.
yeah, it's silly. Like I could be running a hub off of
Uh,
the back of my workstation.
the reason why I actually also so here's the thing. The reason why I liked Gigabyte at the time, Gigabit as well, but was the fact that all of their boards, like 90% of their boards, have a lot of USB ports on the back.
Mhm.
Like the back plate is like plethora of. This one I think has like nine
I
USB
really
ports.
like, when you start looking at some of their Aorus lineup and then just some of their
You got me hooked on the Aorus, by the way. That was from that one time we were hanging out and we started
their
looking at Aorus
hardware is
stuff.
so good.
Yes,
It's the funkiness with their. I mean, I
their
think it was
software
Michael
is
Peppertech was saying the same thing. It's like I am not gonna be running any of the gigabyte upgrades from my GPU because you look and you're like, well, you've got to flash this, and if you have this model of card with this serial number, you're going to flash that, and then if you have this one, you need to flash these two separate firmware. And like, I'm not touching it; it's working.
mhm,
The NVIDIA drivers seem to be keeping me up to date. I'm
yep,
not going anywhere near your stuff, but the hardware
is solid.
is so good.
So I've used their hardware on my on my 1080. So I got my 1080, it was a gigabyte card, and then I went in just straight the 2080 Ti in there was just a
Mhm.
straight Nvidia. So it's a create I think it's a creator one. Uh, but yeah, no, I like the Aorus line. The Aorus line is definitely very nice. I'm a big fan of MSI as well. I used to use them, but
Mhm.
once I went AMD for that, I just stuck to the Aorus line. And so that's why I
Yeah.
said when I had to go back and start looking at other motherboards, it was, having to redigest and look at all the specs. It was a crazy couple of days. I ended up sitting back on a gigabyte card because the number of USB ports on the back, I
Mhm.
actually have now a power and a CMOS clear button on the back, which I was really, really looking for. Like, when you find these little features, and I
Mhm.
feel like I skimmed on all of those with the last motherboard, and that's where it got me. I could have
And that
totally had,
that enthusiast stuff helps. I mean, I
yeah.
wanna be like, well, I can go a little Spartan, or I can go a little lean, or I can make some compromises, and then when I'm back on especially when I'm back on more of a workstation
Mhm.
focus,
Because
um
you're running more, like, you're way ahead with the Threadripper. I mean, I looked, I was thinking, if my 3900X was totally bonked, I was tempted going either 5900X or Threadripper.
until we see some more data on excuse me, once we see some more data on what, like, the next gen of
Hmm.
Threadripper is looking like, I think the better bang for buck is Ryzen. Yeah, I really like my Threadripper build, but
Hmm.
um, and I'm certainly not tapping it out yet. Like, the system's gonna last me a while. The only thing that this current box struggles with is 8K video rendering, and that's more a function of GPU
I was about to
memory
say.
than the Threadripper. Um, but it definitely isn't the speediest collection of CPU cores.
Hmm.
And so I feel the better balance going with these little chiplet cores. You're probably in for a better ride.
It
5000 series Ryzen.
Oh, absolutely. The 5000, the 59 and the 5900X are both like a step above, because the 5800 is, I think it's Ryzen 7 still. So Ryzen
Mhm,
9, the latest generation, and the 3900, which I didn't realize, but so the 3900, the 3950, the 5900 and 5950 are all Ryzen 9 series.
mhm.
So they're all in that. So the difference between 3950 is 12 to 16 cores, and that's what I wanted to kind of the benefit. I felt like if I lost this CPU, I wouldn't go back to another 12. Why not jump to the 16 core and,
Yeah.
not 3950, 5950?
And because those enthusiast parts likely aren't fabbed in the same quantities, and they're the more desirable for folks that are trying to kind of get ahead and do a little future proofing, they're
It's getting
ridiculously
expensive. Yeah.
pricey.
Well,
I mean,
they're
I've just we've talked about it before, but I've just had so
yeah.
much sympathy for folks trying to pull off a build right now. I mean, I think I talked about this here.
You
Just
mentioned it.
before the pandemic went down, I was kind of like making fun of myself for only getting a 1660 Super in my Nook build. It's
Hmm.
like I really wanted to go with a 2060, but I need these little small form factor, stubby GPUs. Like
Yep.
it's just a single slot solution. And I guess I'll just run a 1660. Purr, purr, purr. And then like 6 months into the pandemic, seeing like the online pricing for those cards had like doubled,
Yeah.
and like that I was a little upset that I paid, I think, just a little under MSRP. Like, I really feel like I should have gotten a better deal on that card, and here we are, a year later, and those cards are still grossly overpriced. And
Yeah.
anyone who's an enthusiast in this space right now, I just feel like, one, my sympathies, because like people are going to write it off or shrug their shoulders, or why do you care, or just get, just play games on something else, I guess. Like, you don't fully
Uh,
understand when this is a passion for you.
Matt would also tell me. Matt was like, "Jump on the PlayStation, TK. Let's just play Call of Duty there." I'm like, we'll get into that conversation. I'm not trying to snap. I'm not
Mhm.
snubbing against the PlayStation. Anybody, I
Uh,
PlayStation is a very powerful
and make
system.
sure everyone takes that clip of TK absolutely hating on the PlayStation. He hates
Oh
all of
my god.
you console gamer scum. He never wants to see any of
It
you or
it
have
it's
anything to
just
do with you.
you're used to. I need to explain that I'm used to, or at least I got into Call of Duty with a very different experience than most people did. And jumping from keyboard and mouse to controller is not as easy as people think it is.
Oh, it's
Like,
miserable. I
it
hate
was,
it.
and not only that, the TV that I have here is capped at 60, 4K 60, not 4K 120. So I
Mhm.
went from 240 at 1440p resolution here, not 4K, so still, but 240 resolution with ultra wide, to a 16 by 9 4K 60 on a controller. So I'm like I'm stumbling around, I'm walking around, I'm getting kicked every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Um, I think I killed
I,
one
I, I'm
person.
I'm
Like,
so bad.
it was
So I mean,
just,
like this goes back to like the earliest days of the PlayStation 4. My wife, so like she's not super into gaming, but we have like Tetris tournaments and stuff like that. PlayStation's
oh,
like gross overkill for our level of gaming between my
yeah, yeah.
wife and I. But when we first got the PlayStation 4, she was so proud of herself. She knew I loved the original Portal.
Mhm.
Portal 2 was out. She grabbed it, and like I really tried. I really tried to play that game on a PlayStation controller. And after having played Orange Box on a PC with the mouse and keyboard, it was like I might as well have been playing with my feet because
I
I can't.
I
I
that
just can't.
that's why every time Matt was like, "Hey man, let's jump into a match," I'm like, "Nah, it's
Nah, bruh.
embarrassing. It's embarrassing." I said,
Not until I can
give me
get
a few
like
days."
keyboard and mouse. I mean, this is such a powerful TV computer. Why can't I have mouse and
Why
PC support? I mean, mouse and keyboard
there was
support like I do on a PC.
there's I think I have an accessory here somewhere from GameSir somewhere where it had like a miniature keyboard, left-sided keyboard with a mouse, but I couldn't find it for the setup. So I was also still frustrated with the whole PC thing. So the last
Yeah,
few days I've been I had to push out some videos. I mean, I got a chance to put out the video on I wanted to say the Bose Q35. Sorry, I meant to say the Soundcore Life Q35 um,
they're
headphones.
good.
They're very, very, like, surprisingly good. Not just like battery life. It's been, I want to say, a week and a half, and I haven't been able to kill it. Like, seriously, the battery barely says medium now for me. It doesn't say, but I couldn't tell exactly. It never tells you like the true percentage. Um, put that video out, and then of course the latest expanding Mi 11X series of devices and I'm not trying to
Is this
knock
going
it.
to be our new like Sony watch? Is like every week
What,
a new Mi 11 is going to come out. So
but
what we got Mi
serious
11, Mi 11
Mi 11
Ultra, Mi 11i, Mi 11 Lite,
Lite,
Mi
two
11 Lite
lights,
5G,
yeah, and then now there's also another
the
one that
Mi
just got announced,
11,
11X Pro or
11X.
11. Yeah, so the brand new one that just got announced for the Indian market. So I was like, there was another.
There's
Oh, there was
7.
the Pro too. There was a Pro and the
That's right.
11.
Okay, so there are
Yeah,
8. There are
yeah.
8 models of Mi 11.
And I wouldn't be surprised if another one gets added to I mean, don't get me wrong. So the Mi 11i had, when I first got the phone, I was like, okay, I didn't understand really why Xiaomi made the 11i, because for me the 11i felt like an 11 with a slightly tailored experience so that it can get a cheaper price tag, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but then it hit me like a wall of bricks, because at the end of the day, it's a flat display. It's the T series to what if OnePlus had to release an 8 and an 8T.
Listen to everyone who criticizes OnePlus, like, why even buy? They're in like 6 months, they're going to do a T series. Like, don't even bother. And now we've got all these people that are out there like, hey, look at how much fun all these Xiaomi phones are. And you're like, yeah, only they're doing a T series every 2 weeks.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought you were gonna say years. I'm like, nah, bro.
No.
It's literally, yeah. The Mi 11 came out in February. We're at the end of April, so it makes perfect sense. So if if you wanted to get something that's close to the eye, sorry, to the standard 11, but wanted a flat display and a slightly cheaper price tag, the 11i makes sense. I'm not sure if it's getting as much buzz coverage, because a lot of people are they're like, well, it's an I, it's like a T kind of thing. Dot the I's, cross anyways, IT. But short, I would probably say it's compelling. It has its own. It stands somewhat on its own, but it's a very large family now that you have so much selection.
Mm-hmm.
This definitely is not a mid tier. This is their flagship with less flagship. They took out the wireless. No QHD resolution, but still gave you kind of everything, and it runs very fast.
Yeah,
but it still has the same problems with the thermal. But that's just a Xiaomi thing now. I think we just need to kind of accept and move on.
yeah. Go
No,
ahead.
I was going to say, did you know that the Red Magic 6 has HS power control functions similar to Sony?
I saw the announcement that they were doing better power management, but I didn't know
Yeah.
that it was
So
just like
they
power
the way
control.
they name it is power split or power separation or something like that. but it's exactly the way it works on Sony. You turn the feature on when you're connected to
Nice.
power, and it runs it straight through. And I noticed like that nobody covered that. Like in none of all the other coverage videos that I've seen on the Red Magic 6, they kind of glanced over it. I felt like that's like a gem. This is literally like I've been wanting more companies
Hmm.
to
That
feature this type
should
of
be
management.
features like that should be standalone videos.
Yeah,
You know,
no, I
two
think we
three
should.
minutes. Say, hey, like you don't know this about this phone, and no other review has mentioned this, and here you go. I
I can
still
make it.
haven't gotten my hands on the Red Magic 6.
I
I'm
My days are
so
almost done.
behind.
I think I have a few more days left to go. They're starting to ask. I needed to finish. I was hoping to work more on the Red Magic 6 and the ROG Phone 5 this week, but
Mhm.
I got a little bit sidetracked with the Mi 11 showed up. Out of typical the way I usually get them, they just show up. I don't know they're coming.
Although, tell me it isn't shocking. I mean, like, how quickly this stuff is, like, burning out on YouTube. Like, there's, like, a novelty period of about a week, and then
Barely.
anything after that is, like,
Yeah,
if I'm gonna make a video on this, I've gotta find some stupid gimmick to get people to
very
watch it.
super
It's so tough.
super. Yeah, exactly. It's like that was the thing, kind of like with the Mi 11i. I figured, like it's the flat screen flagship you've been waiting for, because no other flagship has flat screens. Everybody has curved displays now on every edge. So for me, it's like comparing the ROG and the Red Magic 6 to me. I wanted to focus more on emulators. So that's the kind of like the niche thing is, how do emulators run on ROG phone and of course Red Magic. But I don't think the Red Magic is making as big of a splash as this year as it used to in the past. Like I've seen before
No,
heavier.
no phone is. I
It's
mean,
it's
like,
just.
I'm looking at my stats on, like, how quickly OnePlus videos fell apart.
Mhm,
And I'm looking over like where we were with the OnePlus 8 launch and how those videos scored really well. And
mhm.
then very similar content. And again, in my normally argumentative flair, um, like getting in there and trying to do some of the stuff that usually takes me longer, getting it out ahead of schedule, and still like, "Ah, you got a couple thousand views, your video's performing like normal." And you're
And
like,
then
I
you hit a
hate you,
wall.
YouTube.
No, no, exactly.
Um,
And then you hit a wall at one point, and that's it. The video kind of like
and it's dead.
it's it's been a it's been interesting. Let's just say that.
Hmm.
Although on the flip side, for some reason, the Arabic channel on my side is also kind of leveling up. It was doing great around the Mi 11 Ultra. Like it was doing it was actually doing pretty good. Almost 2,000 extra subscribers a month for the Arabic channel for
Nice.
that 1 month.
That's great.
Uh, but the thing about it with the Middle East is the SEO is very very low. So it's not like I don't do those videos for the SEO for the monetization. I literally it's more to stay connected with the Arabic community and
Mhm.
to engage. But there seems just to be a weird wall of some kind of weird, like, let's just say this: my mom, which generally watches all of my videos, did not get the notification for my video on the headphones on the Q35s till a
Of course
day
not.
later.
Mhm.
And I'm like, but why? Why would you delay pushing notification to subscribers that engage with every video that I
Yeah.
produce? Like the moment it shows up for her, she clicks it. I know that much. But it's just those are little things like they don't make sense to me.
No,
And
I
I'm
mean,
like,
YouTube has decided that certain tiers of channels and certain kinds of commentary just shouldn't succeed.
they did that recently. It wasn't that long ago that they changed something in the algorithm that they're not mentioning yet. And it's just this weird, like, work as hard as you can, do whatever you want, but we're just not going to push it as often, and people are just going to not watch it. And it was like, so what's the point? Like, what?
Yeah.
Why? Anyways, so that's why I'm a little bit kind of. I pushed out the Q35. I pushed out the Mi 11i kind of thing, uh, but and I have this interesting video that for the Ozbot. I don't know. Whoops, sorry, I'm putting it somewhere else. Um, an AI
It's
powered selfie stick kind of thing.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say that doesn't look like a gimbal.
It's not. No, no.
Oh, okay.
Best way to describe this would be like this. So you put your phone in it. Not that I want to basically start making a live demo, but it's on Kickstarter. So it's one of those systems here. So let's give it a second. It's not going to miss. So it actually pretty decent. It'll hold most phones. It stands up in
Mhm.
standard foam and regular, all of that. It's actually pretty good. And once you stand in front of the camera and you do like this side, like kind of like a high to it. It recognizes the hand gesture where most cameras will start taking a picture of you. This actually turns blue and it starts tracking you, and it goes
Oh,
almost
okay, okay, okay.
360.
That's cool.
And it's crazy good. Like right now, it's going crazy because it's like I have it
Right, it's
standing in.
supposed to be. Yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be mounted. So it's a Kickstarter. They sent it over, and it's a super easy video to make. It's not even hard, but I had to push out a couple other videos first before I pushed this one out. So yeah, it's been an interesting week. Toys to play with, uh, and yeah, and things are opening up, and apparently, there was an Unpacked event a couple of days ago. Can you
Yeah.
imagine? We had another. I know we kind of mentioned it in the cover, but
I
um,
yeah, I mean, like that's technically like what the topic of this week's show is. What a coincidence
what a
that
coincidence how
Samsung
things are.
had an event, and that's we
The
wanted to
most
talk about
powerful,
the stuff.
Galaxy ever, right? Isn't that the title that they were trying to tease
Well,
us with?
I mean, I just want to start with feels. I,
It feels great in the hand, man. No glass. I mean, sorry, all OLED, all the way.
nerd, I love it.
Come on.
Um, okay, Samsung comes out with a series of laptops and Chromebooks,
Yeah.
and I feel like I should be more excited about this stuff. Um, last week we were. I feel like we were a bit tempered and a little critical of like where the iMac was going. I think I was feeling the iPad just a little bit more than you were. Um,
I felt like the iPad was more like it's a laptop. It's laptop
it's
hardware
a
in a
laptop in
tablet.
search of a problem
Yeah, and but crippled by the operating system to a certain point.
to a certain degree.
Yeah, because I just felt like the M1 is just too much power for what the iPad could do. Even if it is a Pro, it's not like you're
So
suddenly running full version of Final Cut.
so I feel like there was some sort of like I feel like there was some meat to chew in there, right?
Yeah.
You had there's you can't leave an Apple announcement like that and not have strong feelings. If you're
Well,
into tech and you like following this tech, whether you're for it or you're not feeling it, you don't usually walk away from some kind of Apple announcement like that and go, huh, if you're really into this stuff. And
no, you're going to
I'm
be on
kind of
some camp. Exactly. Yeah.
I'm kind of getting a bit of a oh vibe from this last Unpacked. And I'm looking, I mean, like all this stuff looks cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Galaxy
Yeah.
Book Pro 360, that looks cool. Galaxy Book
Really
Pro
nice.
looks cool. Their Chromebooks have been strong.
Yeah.
I still don't see, what I desperately want from Samsung is a Dex dock, like a Nex dock.
Doc.
But aside from that glaring omission, which would make their phones even more
More.
valuable to a number
Yep.
of consumers, like I feel like this is on point. Like this is every piece of this is the kind of iteration and refinement that I would
Yeah.
want to see from a top class laptop manufacturer. I feel like a number of these moves put them in closer competition against some of the great work that we've seen recently from Asus,
Mm-hmm.
in really shaking up the laptop market. I feel like this makes them a stronger player against Lenovo, where Lenovo has been a top tier Windows form
And
factor
and
manufacturer
Chromebook actually, if in the
and Chromebook.
LAUSD and our school district here as well, they handed out all Lenovo Chromebooks.
Well, and with options that can kind of take Chromebook a little more upscale.
Mm-hmm.
Like after using a Pixelbook Go, I'm a little reluctant to step down to the cheapest tier of Chromebooks. I know they're
Yeah,
functional. I know they do the gig well, but there is something to be said for spending a little more because I don't even have a
having
top of
the
the line one. I just have like the base model i5, and you're like, this is a lot nicer. It works
it's night and
better.
day. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
The i5 does the job right. Like you don't think it's weird. Like you wouldn't think that Chrome OS would need that much power just to kind of run smoothly and clear. So we have an old Acer Chromebook that my son uses for school, and the only reason why I kept using that one is because it supported a full size HDMI out, because I can actually run a
mhm,
full monitor and keyboard and camera. So it's
nice.
like the PC experience for school. And today they had us come in because they're doing state testing later in the next month or so. They wanted to have official laptops from the school, so they would do their tests on these PCs as opposed to our home one. So I guess so we're not cheating or anything. Uh, it was a Lenovo. It was a tiny little 10, 11 inch, and I was like, oh my god, this thing is tiny.
That's cute.
I showed my son. I said, look how tiny this laptop is. And he likes it. It's for his size, it looked great. But it's a fully 360, folds on the other side, touch screen, all the good stuff. Very different than the one I have. Mine is non-touch. So Chrome OS, seriously, like if you run an i5 on it pretty comfortably, will run almost anything smoothly, loading everything, booting up, and you have it. And yeah, Chrome works as you can expect. So
I've even been hitting it with like Linux apps,
oh
like
yeah, no,
photo
totally, you can
editing
totally
in
enable them.
GIMP or
Yeah.
I run the Linux build of Firefox. I like having Firefox on my Chromebook.
It's actually a better build. It runs much better.
That's so good. Oh my god. But
I was really Matt and I, when my computer died, Matt and I was like, TK, you could totally do your editing on your on the phone, and I'm like,
you could.
I was like, yeah,
you might be
I
able to
could.
point a couple videos your way about doing some mobile phone
editing.
creation.
No,
Just
it was
saying.
totally. My biggest bummer thing that kind of knocked me is, so I had a whole bunch of footage sitting on my drive on my motherboard.
Oh yeah.
So the two videos that I posted today, I had a lot of footage for them sitting on the hard drive. So I didn't have the adapter to go plug it into the laptop to transfer my data, to try to, all of that stuff would have been just taking me forever. So I ended up reshooting a whole bunch of stuff. And in the middle of that, I'm obviously trying to figure out how to get hardware. So literally trying to shop and edit and produce, it took Monday, Tuesday out. So I didn't produce anything and didn't put out other than recreating content. And then, the little, this little guy, the Obsbot, it spells OBSBOT. So for me, I kept wanting to call it OBS bot. Yeah. I wanted to call it the OBS bot.
I was going to say, I'm sure there's probably an intellectual property
so
by calling it the OBS bot.
When I called it that, and I called them up and I was like, hey, what do you guys call it? Because I've been calling it OBS bot. She responded back, no. We call it Osbot. Obsbot. I'm like, what? That doesn't roll off.
Sure.
But well, actually, it's surprising. I don't know if you can see it. Hold on, let me see if I can expand. They did send me an extra camera, which I'm really interested to try out. This little guy. It's a similar camera that sits on a like a almost like a security. Think of it like a security camera that kind of catches you once it gets to your face. It just tracks you correctly, so I can stand up and walk to the left, and it'll move with me and come back down. So for live streams, again, since that's the PC behind me is my main PC. I'm looking forward to testing it out. So they sent me this one for the video and then that one for me to try out. So there'll be probably something at some point. Yeah, it's. I'm very grateful that they were great. They were able to send me the unit, and that was, and this actually, seriously though, is really nice. No software installation at all. You literally power it up, put in any phone. And what I've been loving with it is I've been using the back-facing camera on the phone without even having to worry if I'm in frame. Just open it on the wide lens, turn on video 4K 60, record whatever, and and when you're setting it up, you set I said it in the video, but make sure you align the camera to be focused on the lever. So the center of the camera is where the Obsbot keep wanting to call it OBS, that's facing, and literally, dude, works like a charm. And you could even run from one side to catch it.
You're like straight up, you're like, set it and forget it.
Get it.
Has this ever happened to you while streaming on YouTube? And then you cut to like someone in black and white, like, I don't know how hands work.
It's like cameras. What? What is it called? The Ronco? No,
the Ronco.
The Ronco.
Like, the Ronco dehydrator.
It's exactly. You said it, and that was his catchphrase for.
So this I feel is like the perfect is the perfect scenario to showcase how lit up we are about Samsung's Unpacked.
I know.
We started talking about it. We detoured on Chromebooks, because they made one, so we just started talking about Chromebooks that we like better, and then
now we're talking
about on Ronco,
the magic oven. Yes, Gary got it.
The magic oven.
Vatsicos is actually messing with me. It's like TK doesn't care about the rule of thirds. No, I do care about it. That's why I'm shooting in wide. That middle box for the rule of third is much bigger. It's more. I mean, so you can technically use the front facing camera if you really gotta, but
Yeah, if you're
realistically,
terrible at this stuff and you like
exactly.
poor quality video, of course you can use a selfie camera.
So for me, it's like, why even bother? So because I saw some other people that did their videos. They're like, hey, here's a quick video from the front facing camera. I'm like, nah, turn the good camera on, flip it over. You don't need to look at yourself. And it worked perfectly.
I
Yeah.
like
So
I shot another one from the OnePlus 9. Like it's such an easy camera to get out and vlog with.
absolutely,
And
man.
I feel
The
like I missed
microphones, not just
some
the
of my
camera.
Okay, so I did the aperture video,
I saw that today.
talking
Yeah.
about different sensor sizes and just breaking down the math. The math
Mhm.
really isn't that hard. What's hard is getting the data.
Yeah.
Is figuring out what sensor size and what focal length your phone camera actually has. But yeah, like I had it on. Oh, I don't have it over here. My little Rode grip,
Oh yeah. Hmm.
the little Rode tripod
The one that came with our
with the
Rode
vlogger
micro.
kit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Vlogger kit.
so
Yeah.
good. So I'm walking around with that, and I as a backup, I grabbed my Rode wireless Go 2, but I didn't even bring a transmitter. Like I just
How do you like
recorded
the
this.
magnetic the magnets? Is it that good?
It works really well. Um, this
Because I
is
was thinking,
heavy.
yeah,
So if you wear your shirts a little looser or baggier, it's gonna kind of flop around.
okay.
So you want to try and minimize,
I'm,
how much it bounces on you.
I use,
But
so just a reference, I've gone 100% now on the road, the wireless Go to. I was using a
I'm
much more
using them a
expensive
lot.
system.
Yeah.
Dude, hey, gotta get them. Just like if you can get your hands on them, which by the way, they did come back in stock on Amazon for a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, Totally worth it. And I keep them charged. And so, yeah, no. So, but when
So
I saw your post about it,
you set it and forget it.
get it. Magic up. I'm sorry. Wireless Go to Road.
So I had this as the backup with the little tribble
Mhm.
on top, and it does. It kind of feels like you've got like a Star Trek communicator badge,
You know,
like you just want to
I
talk
wish
to
that
each
would
other,
be the way how you start recording, right?
right?
Okay, let's go.
Um, so I was walking around. Most of the audio from the phone mics
Mhm.
was perfect. I had just enough. It was a really windy day
Yeah.
when I shot it. It was just enough on like major sections of me talking about like the actual math where like, you know what? I can't really bounce back and forth. It's just going to be way easier if I sync all the audio and
Oh,
and
off the
and
camera.
like
Yeah.
staple it together. So instead of editing it on the phone, I did edit it from my home workstation just so that I could swap out the audio tracks. But like if it weren't for 40 seconds of commentary that was just obliterated by wind, I would have just gone with the phone mics. I
Yeah.
mean, what is for an auto mode? I think it's a little oversaturated. I think it's a little over sharpened, but the stabilization is gorgeous. The 60 frames per second is butter
Hmm.
smooth. It just
Yeah.
looks so good. And it handles the vibrance of harsh Southern
Hmm.
California daylight pretty well.
Oh, speaking
Um,
of, yeah, we're getting very a lot of good sun, but a lot of heat the last couple of days. So yeah,
oh yeah,
no,
it almost hit
mixed too.
100 today, didn't it?
We crossed 100. We were
You
comfortable
broke
and
100.
over.
I
Yeah.
was driving around in 98 going.
Eh, yeah, it's just no. One thing I definitely, so I think audio over Bluetooth is something that we should really start getting this as a standard feature across, like without having to download like a Filmic or anything like a specific app that adds these features. Sony, not Sony. I think Samsung added it as a pro feature in their
Their
pro
camera
mode
app.
only, and they augmented it now with Bluetooth Mix, which allows you to use Bluetooth audio and audio from the microphones on the phone,
Mhm.
which I felt like was a very, like, actually
It
those
helps.
are like, that's a very helpful thing, especially for if you're talking and like say I'm away but you're behind the camera, so now you can be in the conversation and we can be
Mhm.
together without
The,
having to have two separate
the thing about Bluetooth is one where I understand why they're reluctant to do it. It's because you're going to end up with a bunch of tryhards that complain that their $20 earbuds
microphone, yeah, sound
from
crap.
like 4 years ago don't sound good and that there are latency issues. And
And there is actually,
And there will be,
Even
and
with Samsung right now, there's quite a bit. Like I know what pair sounds good, and I
right.
know what pairs are going to be like giving me that robot slightly modulated.
But also, I mean, we're really stretching Bluetooth to do stuff that it wasn't meant to do. And
Yeah.
so I feel like once you take that step, it's handy. If you're coming at this cheap, or you're trying to use pieces of gear that you already have, it makes a
Mhm.
lot of sense. And it makes a lot of sense why you'd want to use Bluetooth. But I'm
Yeah.
telling you, as soon as you can step outside and grab yourself some Rhodes, grab yourself some Komikas. The
Oh,
Komika
Komika's. Yeah.
wirelesses are really solid for the price.
Yep.
The Samsung labs are pretty good still. I mean, their
Mhm.
system it at least allows for the difference between having a lav or having a handheld, which
Yeah.
works really well.
And OnePlus still
I think
accepts external audio, by the way. You just need to use the
yes,
adapter.
exactly. And I and I think it's cute too. Like Rode has a handheld version of the Wireless Go where it's just a plastic stick that you stick this onto, and then you can use it like a handheld mic.
Oh yeah, it doesn't have the quarter mount. I That would have been so nice because I would have been like,
Right? You're just like,
here, look, girl, right there. No,
but what I might just do is get like a pad that works with their magnet, and then
oh
just take
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
magnet
no,
on
exactly, and then put it on.
and be like,
Exactly, yeah.
take that road. I'm not going to buy your $20 plastic stick.
Today on Best of Our Week, Juan Carlos discovered a better
But
way
it's
on how
cute
to use a
because
mic.
like you have like the little clip on dead cats. You
Yeah, yeah.
have a mic ready to go for that kind of interview. Anyway, as soon as you step out of trying to shoehorn a consumer headset into a slightly more professional vlogger, documentary, or interview style workflow, your
Mhm.
life just gets so much easier. So
Yeah.
so I like that Samsung has incorporated Bluetooth, but I kind of get why there's this general reluctance to use it as a standard we can rely on, because it's really not what we should use. And
No.
as soon as you can move to dedicated transmitters and receivers, your quality skyrockets. And
Oh, and
so
and that's
if
the
you can
thing.
go USB audio into your phone with a transmitter and a receiver, is going to be an order of magnitude better
Absolutely.
to work with,
Way,
easier
way
to work
better audio processing, better signal strength. There's no
with. No
fluctuation
funky
with the boom.
latency issues.
Exactly. And then I think that was the when I was trying to shoot the video for this thing for the OpSpot thing. um I initially was trying to record it with a few buds. So I put the buds in there and I had like some other
Mhm,
sound cords. But then I decided because this one actually the Q35s had a specific feature for AI noise focus on the
yeah.
or noise cancellation on it. And I'm like, man, how good is this? And I was very surprised for the quality. It canceled out a helicopter. So there was some fires in the area where we are right now. We had a couple of them yesterday. Fire season starting.
Mhm.
And the helicopter was literally like, if I was recording a regular video with the mics on the camera, it would have been so bad. People would be like, why did you do this? The mics on this headphone canceled everything other than me. Like seriously, with the exception of a bird chirping in the middle of me saying something, that's how it got caught in the audio. Otherwise, it was just focused on me so quietly. Like, uh, so yeah, it ends up being you have to pick the right gear, and it is no way to know which one's going to work better because the Q35s only had two mics, so you wouldn't have
Mhm.
assumed that it would perform as good as some that have three mics or and better noise cancellation and options. So, short answer, very nice, very surprising. But I wouldn't necessarily use it if I was trying to demo it. I would normally use a USB-C into like my V60, the anything that accepts external audio as over USB, and I would run the Rode mics into it. That would be my better choice because then I know and I'm confident that the audio is going to sound clear, pristine, and I have backup audio because I know the
Yeah.
Rode would record my track right on it. So worst comes to
So
worst.
good. Especially like because adding USB audio to the Samsung
Hmm.
manual video camera app is definitely a nice perk. And
Hmm.
then same for Sony.
Sony
Sony
accepts it, and
really improved their audio handling in the
mhm.
Cinema Pro app, where before it was like really it was really finicky. It would work with my Samsung, but it wouldn't work with my Komika. It didn't
I
matter
so for
what
me it worked with
cables
the
I was
Komika. I When I was
you like
testing it with yeah, I was like, for me it worked.
I would say after the Android 11 update, now like I popped the roads in and they were like, yeah, cool, let's go.
Yeah.
and then, like it was just like seamless. It was perfect. So that kind of stuff helps tremendously. But
And
again,
I
it's
think
like,
Android 11 did a good job. Like as an upgrade for your for the for Mach 1 Mach 2 was definitely a really good upgrade. Although you needed to, I think, like in your stage, right, like you said, you had to reset the phone. I think just to kind of get the, or I think that was on your
so
V60, right?
so I had major issues with V60 and dual display, and I
Hmm.
decided I just didn't want to mess with it on my Xperia. Like, I didn't want to go through the hassle of just sticking with the, because I used that Xperia pretty heavily, so there was a lot of
Yeah.
my personal info on that. It
Hmm.
hurt wiping it out. But this is also part of the conversation where it's like, when I say wipe it out, I mean like no restore. Go back and set it up as a completely new device. Don't
Yeah.
pretend like you're
They
going to
don't
bring in
have
all of that data from your
they
previous.
don't have a good backup and restore. Like I think that's one thing I like about OnePlus Switch. The backup and restore function reminds me of like Clockwork Mod and
But
all the old
but I gotta
titanium
say,
backups.
okay, so I'm glad you brought that up. It's such a killer feature. It is my hypothesis that this is what's likely messing up a lot of OnePlus 7 owners.
Okay.
Is they're installing Android 11. There is so much under the hood chicanery. There's so
Mhm.
much monkey shining, tomfoolery happening under the hood.
Yeah.
It looks the same. Like, you upgrade to Android 11 and you're going to go, oh well, this is kind of what I was already using. I there is so much under the hood change to how
Yeah.
Android 11 functions. I think that's why we're seeing so many people complaining on the OnePlus forums, and you'll see, like, in some of the comment threads, it's like, yeah, I mean, OnePlus can't make an update right, and now their phones are tanking, and I even had to do a hard reset, but now my phone's running a little better. And you're like, I think it's the same thing. I think
It's the upgrade. Yeah.
you upgrade from where you were, or you think you're being clever, you wipe the phone, but then reinstall from a backup. And
which
all
is
of
bring.
all of that data is being brought back. And there's something in there that when you go from Android 10 to Android 11 that I think is messing people up.
So
Across the board, I'm
and
recommending nuke your phone,
start
start
fresh
totally fresh. And
and
I
install
feel you're going
apps.
to,
Yeah.
and it's also your chance to clean house. Like, did I really need that extra Sudoku app? Nah, I'm probably fine. I wasn't really playing that game. I can let that
It's
one
one of
go.
those. So my brother has my old OnePlus 7 Pro. I gave over to my brother, and he installed Android 11. He was really excited. He didn't install it on his wife's phone, so he did it on his first, and everything was okay for him with the exception of the dialer. So the phone dialer is where it bonked for him, and the kicker is he could receive calls normally. So I
Mhm.
called him, the phone rings, he answers, and everybody works fine. He couldn't make a single call out of the phone. Like the
Okay, you know
dialer would not.
what's hilarious?
Yeah.
On my V60, if you keep okay, on my V60 and on my OnePlus 8 Pro, if you keep Wi-Fi calling on with Google Fi, you can't receive phone calls.
So you had to be
It
on
doesn't
data
work.
for Google Fi to work.
No. You have to disable Wi-Fi
Wi-Fi.
calling, and then you can. So the
Oh,
phone
oh.
rings.
Mhm.
You see the little splash screen. You slide the phone receiver icon. Nothing happens. The phone call ends, and then you got to call them back. I had the exact opposite problem. I could make calls. I can make calls
Yeah,
just fine.
yeah, he got
Until I
frustrated.
disabled Wi-Fi calling, I couldn't receive any calls. Again, there's something going on with Android 11. Android
There's
11
definitely.
is doing something different.
And it, like you said yourself, though, it is something to do with the data because all I ended up having to ask him, I said, dude, do me a favor, go into app info, clear the data. And sure enough, guess what happened?
That
The
helped.
dialer worked. He can make calls. He's
Yeah.
back into the 21st century.
Unfortunately, it's more of a running problem with Google Fi subscribers. I
Uh,
think it might be messing up some T-Mobile subscribers. There's something about their implementation of Wi-Fi calling and the fact that Google is piggybacking on that for Fi. I
of
haven't heard
all of the
about it.
ones, yeah, no. I was going to say, for of all the Wi-Fi calling algorithm or programs that have been on, T-Mobile's is the most standardized one because any phone that has that supports Wi-Fi calling automatically works on T-Mobile's.
Mhm.
So I haven't had that much issues. My old uh, I mean, it's like typically Android 11. Yeah, so I'll say this much: if you're going from 10 to 11, be ready for some changes and some growing pains. And I would probably recommend, like Kwan was saying, if you could start fresh and just spend a little bit of time to get your device up to date where it is, it'll run so much smoother, and you'll get
Mm,
all of the benefits of Android 11 with the new update. Because my brother, although was having a problem with the dialogue, he's like, "I love the new look. I like Android 11 on that." And I said, "Yeah, it was a big update. It was a very big redoing of the UI elements and everything. So it wasn't really it's just looks very different." I told him it
mm.
just looks really nice, and I told him you're gonna love it. But yeah, so he's good now. So we'll have to see how long that kind of stays. Android 12, hopefully in about another week or so, we'll be hearing the beta coming up.
I was
So we're
like, I
gonna
love it. We're gonna be talking about Android 12, and what is it like? Oh, what phone? We just got a whole series of announcements that Android 11 is going to be coming to a bunch of phones at like the end of the summer. I was like, I think even Nokia was like, "Hey, one of our $200 phones is going to be getting its Android 11 update in July," and you're like,
what 12? Like,
"Okay, all right."
I see how
I
you
mean,
plan.
what I'm hoping, and I've been saying this since Android 9. What I'm hoping is that we'll see this be like just another step better for traction. Getting manufacturers to kind of streamline their update process and push these out just a bit more timely. But it seems like you really only get the one timely update, and then you kind of get pushed to the back burner for a lot of these manufacturers.
Well, so the reason why I was mentioning the beta version of Android 12 primarily was, at least within the last couple of years, typically OnePlus will be releasing their first alpha of the Android 12 update for their
Hmm.
systems at the time as the first beta, because they're kind of a little bit behind as
Hmm.
Google releases their version. So in to kind of continue the conversation, so I'm actually kind of looking forward to see what OnePlus does with their first alpha. It's not obviously not a user, not a daily driver or anything like that. It's purely like what the first version of Android
Are
12 was.
are you going to install it?
Typically, that's what I do on the 9. So the 9 is, since I don't typically use the 9 as much as I'd use the 9 Pro. So the
Hmm.
9 Pro is the one I would actually end up using. So the 9 ends up being my test bed. So I unlock the bootloader. That's the one I usually, if I'm going to run anything, kind of tests or anything. If I nuke it, worst comes to word, I reflash it, get it back to normal.
Nice.
But no sweat off.
I think
Kind
I'm
of.
gonna try and make a bigger play out of this. Usually, I only run the OnePlus betas to see if there's been any change to
Uh-huh.
like desktop mode. It's kind of, I don't know why that's become my tradition. Is let's look at a new Android
You're hoping.
beta and
You're like, I'm
see
hoping this is the beta that they
anything.
fixed it. No,
Especially because
Bueller,
like it's
Bueller.
the only way that we can get it. You know,
Yeah.
if we did. If Pixels would give us access to the desktop mode, I just do it on a Pixel, but it's
It's
usually
so
only a
ironic. It's
OnePlus.
so ironic that the Pixel,
So funny.
Google's own Pixel, does not support HDMI out, and you cannot use desktop mode like at all. Like on the
Drives me crazy.
yeah. Um, but yeah, so like typically what I do is for the alphas, I typically just want to see the what the new changes that they're going to start
Yeah.
bringing in. There's something. I mean, 12 doesn't seem to be as big of a change as what we
Well,
got with
I mean,
Android
we said that with
UI.
11. You know, what I think is kind of interesting is when we see how Google is putting more pressure on uh what what are those what's the name of that their update project.
Trouble?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, okay.
So starting with Android 9, and they would kind of make treble a more mandatory component in
Hmm.
any manufacturer update. So if you sold a phone that had Android 10 pre-installed, you had to support these types of initiatives from Google. And they did the same thing again with Android 11. They
Yep.
put even more into Google Play Services updates. I mean, think about over the last year how much more aggressive those Play Services updates have become, where they even require a reboot often
I
to complete the setting.
even on even on the TicWatch, I get way more Google Play updates on the TicWatch than getting a full version
So
of
if you're
Wear OS.
changing enough of the core architecture in the operating system underlying that phone, where you need to power cycle the phone, I kind of feel like the underpinnings. Again, Android 12 isn't going to do much. It's not going to be much different,
Hmm.
but it's gonna under the hood, you're changing up the internal framework enough that I feel like that's where a bunch of these substantial changes are going to be. And again, it
Absolutely.
makes me worried that like we're in for another round of like
Reset and
people
reset.
complaining about terrible updates, but really there's no way to clean this stuff out better. It's like it's more complicated than what it really looks like.
No, absolutely. And 12 definitely is more of the under the hood at this point, at least. Aesthetically, they haven't really gone. I mean, they have a new system UI setting, view that was hidden at one
I
point.
do like that new split notification shade. I'm
Yes,
really looking forward to seeing
and,
how that
and,
might
and the
work on
theming,
like
I
my
think the
Duo.
theming on Pixel looks really nice. Like when they turned that on, like feature, just having that change the accent colors to match what's in the actual foreground. I think it
It's
looks
really
really
clean.
nice. So there's some nice little things, and I'm like I said, I'm looking to see what OnePlus does, because typically those are the things that like OEMs will not go with, because that
Mhm.
usually clashes with their skins, right? So OnePlus is with Oxygen OS, Color OS, MIUI, all of those things. They typically theme all of those features already in their system,
Mhm.
so they typically don't go with the nice little slight touches there. Although the power menu shows up somewhere, like some versions of the device. I'll say this: the ROG Phone 5 and the Red Magic 6 both used Android, default Android power menu, which I really like, because then you can add the automation functions into it. But then you go into OnePlus, and then they keep that in there. But I think there's other. I want to say MIUI does it, but it doesn't actually keep that in there. So they change it depending on the OEM.
Mhm.
But we'll see. So that's why I'm looking kind of forward to it, and also want to see what the other announcement that Google has to, will be gracefully gracing, whatever that thing is called. Um, it's definitely an interesting beginning of May, kind of like hopefully no more. Actually, I'm hoping for some surprises. Maybe surprise us with something. The 5A is going to be coming very soon, very
Yeah.
shortly after. Uh,
Although at this point, I wonder. I mean, like the conversation is so rigged against like anything that's not like the most peak trending topic popular. Like I almost wonder maybe this is the right year to kind of just stay the course for Google. You really want to put yourself out there. You really want to do something bold. I'm hoping. Did I just activate a phone by saying the G word? I'm hearing someone talk.
yeah,
Anyway,
I heard something. Yeah, me too.
yeah. Um, but sorry, my what I'm hoping is we'll see a Pixel with a Google designed SoC, and like maybe that's just enough. Like
The Pixel
I'll
6
just be
XL,
good. Yeah,
man.
like Gary's saying, yeah, give me a Pixel 6 with Google custom silicon,
Mhm.
just like Apple's making Apple silicon. Um,
I want
but
that
give
iPhone
me
iPhone 13 with M1. Make it happen. Go.
it's like I just think it's so funny. It's like iPhone 12 doesn't perform better than iPhone 11, and everyone's just like, it doesn't matter. And
It's still
like,
an iPhone. I know.
what are we doing? So at this point, I mean, like, all I really hope to kind of shake up what's been going on in the smartphone market is if Google can give me an SoC that's roughly as powerful as a Snapdragon 855, has all of their supplemental cores, neural
Mhm.
core, processing core, their ISP,
Mhm.
their custom hardware that usually complements a Qualcomm SoC, but that's all on die,
Mhm.
because that would be huge. That would be amazing if all of that co-processor was on the same system on a chip.
Yeah.
And I think that's like it's kind of all I need to be excited about what Google might do this year. And anything else would just be gravy. But I feel like if they really go out of their way, they really put themselves out there, they really stick their necks out, they're just going to get their heads chopped off by a tech commentary machine that can't accept any conversation out of except for Samsung versus Apple.
Well, but I mean, if there's anything to be said, this has Samsung's flavor into it a little bit, so we'll have to see. Is it right? Because that's
I mean,
Samsung's in there.
Samsung's chip fabrication, I don't want them like I don't want an Exynos, and I don't think that's what we're gonna get.
No, no, and
Um,
I'm hoping that none of the. I'm hoping Google definitely heavily influences the approach to this SoC and what they're trying to get out of it, and
for
not
sure.
build it on an existing Exynos architecture. So that would be my worry, is to basically, it's like, hey, Samsung's like, what have you guys been doing with Exynos? Let's go ahead and start there. I'm like, no, don't,
Mhm.
no.
Well,
start what you need to power the Pixel 6,
yeah.
and how do you provide a more sustainable, thermally not thermally challenged processor with all of the right components to
Actually, I
enhance
mean,
your
if
experiences.
Google is able, like I again, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me here because they're going to think they want the latest and greatest and the mostest powerful. But I kind of feel like maybe MediaTek's approach is the right play right now. You're not going with the big X1 core. I feel it's like performance core is driving our CPU temperatures up higher. The
Hmm.
GPU performance is better, but it's
Hmm.
better at near laptop wattage now. You know, when we've got GPUs that are hitting almost 9 watts, that's insane to put in a phone.
Wow.
So again, I feel like if you just went with A78 cores for your quad core, big cores, and you kept up generationally with your lower power CPU cores, and you went with last generation performance on the GPU,
Hmm.
you'd be golden. And your phone would genuinely, especially when used over a longer period of time, would genuinely outperform Snapdragon 888s in a number of tasks.
Absolutely.
Add in Neural Core, and you're going to destroy Snapdragon 888s for chewing up image data,
Process. Yeah.
processing
It,
photos and videos. A Pixel with Neural Core is going to murk a Snapdragon 888, but it's not going to get the bestest Geekbench scores. It's just not worth it.
it's not number one on the DxO Mark and the Display Mate. I don't want to look at. I don't want to look at it. It doesn't qualify.
Oh, I had to touch it with my hands, and now I'm going to throw up in my mouth.
I do want to say hi. What's up to Aditya and All That Tech? Of course, he just joined us in the chat as well.
Hey,
It's
guys.
definitely the conversation kind of went around. Like I know we wanted to talk about more about the Samsung event and how
But did
things
we
were.
did we want to talk more about the
I
Samsung
I don't
Unpacked?
know. I don't think if
Did
there's
we
much to say
really?
really. There's not much to kind of. There isn't really
I don't
much.
know. Let's at least kind of like here. I mean, I'll pull up a web browser here, and we can at least go over the Samsung site. Oh, I've
I
got
want to say this: the
weirdly
Odyssey,
zoomed in.
the Odyssey laptop, the gaming laptop that they were talking about, was the only one that kind of caught my eye, mostly because of the Odyssey
Check
monitor
this.
that I have behind me, which I feel like it's like their extreme gaming experience, kind of, PC components for me. But I felt like it was slightly crippled with a 3050 on it. I was like, it's a 3050, not even a 3060. It is a better, better GPU for what it does, but I felt like it needed.
Well,
I could.
I've got the Unpacked highlights. This is from the Samsung website right now,
Perfect, because
and
that yeah, no, I think what we've seen though is it's a generational upgrade that's literally like
don't
90% of
just
what they're
talk
saying.
about it. I've got the screen
Oh yeah,
share up.
yeah, yeah.
Oops.
Sorry,
We
sorry,
can at
man.
least like
Sorry.
show what's going on.
Look at that. Look at the 360.
So Galaxy Chromebook 2, Galaxy Flex. Why am I on just the? There we go. Galaxy Pro 360,
Let's make
Book
it even bigger.
Pro, Chromebook 2, Book Flex, Book Ion, Chromebook.
Mhm.
Where do we want to start? Galaxy Book 360. Is that what we
Let's
want?
Well, yeah, the 360 and the standard. So the Book Pro and Proposed 360 are pretty much, I think, one versus the if you want it to be able to swivel all around, or you want it just to keep it in the
Mhm.
same form factor. Touch display, as you'd expect, OLED panel, and I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's you had like different configurations: i7s, 11th gen i9s. No, I don't think there was an i9. Was there?
So it would make me really nervous if they put an i9 in this form factor.
It,
I
it,
had an i7, an 11th gen i7 in that MSI,
mhm.
and the fan basically runs all the time.
Yeah,
So knowing that Intel has been trying to bump core counts and keep up with their sort of odd
they run
generation.
hot. Yeah, no, the nine the as
I
was it
might
the
have been
9900?
actually, now that I say that, I might have been 10th gen. I'd have to look up that MSI again. But regardless, to keep up with the horsepower race, we're
Mhm.
definitely, I think, working with a bit of a power deficiency on Intel.
Cooling
So
would have been definitely a big concern.
I don't know that I would have wanted. I mean, let's check out the pre-order. What yeah, it tops out at i7s. I would have been
Okay.
very surprised if
Yeah, no,
there was
I think
i9 in it.
it maybe I think I'm maybe looking at the Odyssey. So the gaming system. This was not intended for gaming purposes. It's not their gaming laptop. Typically, you'll get the higher specs, and the ones that generally have a fan that runs at 100% all the time. Because like all the MSI laptops I've ever bought, like whenever I'm doing anything, their fans are like. It has a actually MSI knows it so badly that they have a button on the actual laptop that turns on the fans to 100%, which it does feel like at that point it's going to lift off. Like
Although
seriously.
it's just I hate how Samsung lays out sort of the options for this. I want Galaxy Book Pro 360. I want to see if I can get the smaller one. I want a Core i7 16 gigs, and it won't let me get a terabyte.
Oh, it won't let you get a maxed out.
So what you max out at $1,400 is 16 gigabytes of RAM and a 512 NVMe SSD.
Can you try changing it to 8 and see if like
if they let me do a terabyte with 8? So yeah, with 8 gigabytes of RAM, you can only get the 256.
Which kind of makes sense on the.
No, it doesn't. It
no
doesn't
no
make any sense. I hate this so much.
Go to the 16 and go to the 256. I think you should be able to select the 256 at that point.
No,
not even. So they're marrying the 256 to the 16.
It's like they're making their laptops more like phones. You know, you get 8 gigabytes of RAM. You must not want more storage space.
So you can't have 512. No,
which is, I almost used a very crude term that would be insulting to a certain population of people. I mean, this is so reductively, knuckle-draggingly simple-minded to not give us options on different tiers of storage. And it's all.
But it also could be that the 1 terabyte isn't available.
Well, no, it's an NVMe SSD.
It should be. No, I know. I'm saying from them, not to say that the technology is not. Sorry, what I meant to say is I think at this point the configuration isn't available for their side, but there's really no reason for you not to have to be able to get you're right, 8 gigs with 512 as opposed to just having 8 gigs with 256. It sounds like they're making you, if you want more RAM, you have to go for the higher storage, which qualifies more money.
And if you want more storage, you've got to go for the higher RAM. The two aren't.
Well, but not only that, so for production style, though,
people who would just want a ton of local storage to back up photos of their kids. They don't need 16 gigabytes of RAM. They don't. 8 gigabytes is going to be perfectly fine
for general use. I was going to say for general usage, I would probably say like browsing, editing, and so on. 8 is more than enough. If you're doing any kind of production, image editing, Photoshop stuff, that's when you start. 16. I'm actually also tempted to say I don't think 16 is enough if you're doing really like creative work. 32 should be the standard.
Which is also kind of interesting too, because like. What is it? Ever since 9th gen Intel, we've had laptop chipsets that can support more than 16.
But very, very like almost no, other than the creator laptops that I think we've talked about.
Some of the gaming chipsets,
some of the higher end, they'll ship out with like 32, but almost 99% of them would be 16 gig as the max. Like as
I think my Razer was one of the last generations of full core count mobile processors that only supported up to 16. But again, it's like this is the ennui. This is the tech why I'm struggling, because I want to be. I love stylus support. I love having sort of tablet-y style modes. I like having flip and fold yoga style.
Oh, the Lenovo does it. Yeah, the yoga Lenovo, the yoga books. Yeah.
And then I dig into just these specifics, and you're like, you're making this, you're ratcheting your customers. There's no reason why these tiers should be stapled together the way that they are. And this is something that people buy Apple despite their business practices, not because of these business practices.
No, exactly.
You're not making this easier for consumers. You're making it more expensive for consumers.
It's more about nickel and diming it. And Gary jumped into that. I want a Xenon processor. Man, remember the Xenon processors? How big those things?
Oh man,
the Pentium back in the days of the Pentium.
Yeah. No, I've been watching like the server build. Like Dr. Ian from Anantech has been testing a whole bunch of recent like server chipsets and stuff. And who else? There's another channel too, and my brain is Swiss cheese. But watching people just pull out these like blades and you're like, I miss working on servers. There's like there's a part of me that would really, really want to get like an old, like,
Just get a
data
rack and
center.
yeah, and
Yeah.
exactly set it up and just set up your multiple servers on there, run them with the Xenon processors and all. I know, I remember those things ran hot though. I love it. Aditya is jumping in there. It's like best of our week. I edit on my laptop, and I can agree. 8 gigs is absolutely not enough. It works, but it feels like its computer's dragging, and it's
Oh, for
one of
sure.
those easiest things you can definitely upgrade. 16 is the way to go. It's like one of those we should have been there years ago. Like 8 should not even be an option, especially for laptops. I understand it for smartphones. Like the Mi 11i, surprisingly, with 8 gigs is running perfectly smooth. Like MIUI runs without any problems. The 888 is handling it very nicely. But they actually are going with a new type of tech with the E4 AMOLED 1080p panels. So
Hmm.
it works. It's like they're seriously like, with the exception of a few things that they took away from the Mi 11, it's a decent T series, or like a tailored experience of what the 11
Yeah.
was offering, and much cheaper, like around 650 euros, which I felt like it's like where more people were, focused on that one. So let me see here.
And the thing is, like,
So
I even
here, yeah,
dig
the
some of
Book
these design
S.
elements where their
Yeah.
hinge
Hmm.
is that little bump so that the keyboard
A little
lifts.
bit of a little bit of an edge, and so that there's no.
I'm trying to find from their Unpacked page. I'm probably pee popping all over this microphone right now. What was the name of their gaming laptop? I don't see
The
that in their
Odyssey one
highlights. They
should
don't
be
have it on
the
here.
Galaxy Book Odyssey.
Book Flex, Book
It's an
Chromebook.
update. So hold on, let me see here. Do I get?
Hold
Let
on,
me
let me
check
see if I
here.
can.
It's on the on CNET. CNET had it on their page. Unveils a specced out slim
Oh,
gaming laptop. I don't know. Does it show?
no, all I see for them on their actual site are their Odyssey gaming monitors.
Yeah. So there,
Let
it's
me pull it up.
possible that it's maybe not out yet.
Oh, it's just kind of interesting though, that because I don't think all of these are, but I
No.
was expecting it to be on the Samsung site under their
Well,
Unpacked page.
let me share my side. Hold on. Share
Yeah,
this.
you do you.
I'll
I'm gonna
do
get out.
CNET this
I've
time.
already given Samsung's webpage too many hits. Ugh.
So here, the Odyssey. Can we do the zooming in? And here we are. So if we had to kind of bring it up, the Galaxy Odyssey book is going to be a 50.6 typical, gaming monitor, 11 gen Intel Core H series processor, NVIDIA RTX 3050. So again, TI, the new chipset, the new GPUs, up to 2 terabytes of internal SSD, 32 gigs of RAM, the right number. But it says up, but again, you have to read the words up
Up
to, which
to.
means it doesn't
Yeah.
start there. HDMI, USB-C, USB Type-C 2, 3.2 USB, 3 of those, which is nice. Micro SD for external storage, but they kept the micro SD on this one though. I don't know. When will they take that away? I'm just kidding. High quality gameplay with Game Pass, magnetic back makes sense. Dolby Atmos for sound, enhanced cooling system, 135-watt charger with USB-C, which means charger will be universal. Should be pretty good.
Mhm.
And interesting design. I mean, let me see here if I have a better picture here. So this is what it's going to be. It looks very like futuristic, I guess, but it's the updated Odyssey, essentially their gaming
Gotcha.
series. They did, I think, if I'm not mistaken, update also the Odyssey monitor this year. So it was the one that I
So
have has a
how
new
much do we
version of it.
want to bet that the Odyssey with 8 GB of RAM has 256 gig of storage,
More than likely, that's
and
how
then
it's
the
going to.
16 takes you up to a terabyte,
And then
and
the
then the
32
32 takes you up to 2 terabytes of
two
storage.
terabytes. I think that's the step count. And uh but yeah, totally. Yeah, why would you ever make a laptop, a gaming laptop that has 8 gigs? It's like, come on.
I don't know. And
Call of Duty would gobble that up in 2 minutes, man.
Call of Duty
You
won't
screw.
fit on the SSD.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, exactly. Hey, every single, like, I learned one thing by trying to play Call of Duty on the PlayStation. The way Activision and the updates their parts on the game are in pieces, and they're all separate modules that you have to go into the PlayStation Store
Yeah.
to update separately, so that you can play the game with high graphics as opposed to standard graphics if you have a monitor that supports it. Um, And but on the PC, like seriously, every other day I turn on BattleNet just to jump in, and there's always like a 200 to 300 megabytes sometimes, and then of course season 3 just got dropped,
Right.
and those are like terabytes at a time, and I'm like, oh my god, dude, I just wanted to play. I hate updates. Like you buy a game, right? You bet it, you go home, you plug in the disc, and literally, I think 90% of the time, there's going to be a sit down where you're going to wait, like, oh, I got to wait for an update.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way we are now. They
And
don't,
at the same time, like Comcast is going to be firing up data caps across the country.
and you're gonna be like, oh crap. So
Oh,
like,
great.
yeah. So up
I got to
data, yeah.
plan my updates, every other week so as to
I
not eat up all of my
Or
data.
take your laptop to the library and download on the library Wi-Fi.
Oh no.
I'm just
So I'm not too scared off by a 3050 Ti, but
Oh no,
knowing
I
that,
absolutely. I was just thinking is like if you call it a gaming though, I would go 3060, 3070 actually would be nice. I'm not even saying give me an 80 or a 90. Give me a decent processor. 3060 actually is surprisingly good. It's better
yeah,
performance-wise even than around the 2080 that we have right now, which like seriously, performance-wise for the buck, I think it's a
mhm,
great if you can find one, to say that.
right.
Uh, it,
But again, knowing that this is going to start at 1399, I wonder like what their up to spec is going to be because I
Probably
have to
60.
believe.
I have a feeling I want to say 1699 or 1799
Oh, I was
originally.
going to say 1999 once you factor in RAM
Oh,
and
the 2
SSD.
terabyte, yeah, and well, that could potentially be right. You're right. They may do the a
Do you think
300
they're going
step
to
up.
use different screens?
They didn't mention this different displays, so I'm assuming it's literally the same experience. But I wouldn't be surprised if the higher end model, the 32 2 terabyte model, would have a maybe a QHD for or no, sorry, a 4K 120 or something to the higher resolution or something like that. Although gaming realistically is it's more about the refresh rate. So
Mhm.
for a gaming system, I think 1440p at 300 hertz would work much better than a 4K at 120 because they could push it. I mean, they've done high refresh rate, AMOLED. So like I said, with the one I have back there is 240.
I mean, they have. Are we going to start hearing about like green tint on Samsung laptop displays?
And you tilt the laptop a little bit, and suddenly it's off cycle, off axis, and you can't see anymore. I think they're going to be fine. I think seriously, the
I'm
hardware is
totally being
90%.
snarky. It's
Yeah, no, I know. It's really hard for them to mess because 90% of the stuff that they're running on it is on Windows anyway, so it's not their operating system. And Windows has its own, it's been botching its own updates. So I think at the end of the day, it's a good contender. I like if I had to pick one out of all the things that they announced, I think that was the one that kind of stood out to me the most. The other ones are generational upgrades, but I feel like going with at least finally going with the 30 series of the GPUs on NVIDIA
but
it's a
but
good
no
move.
AMD options. I mean, this is
No,
this is
but
also what's
that's where
kind of
they're
killing
missing
me
out.
here
They're missing out on anything. Like
is
Ryzen chipsets
are
would have been
so
so the right way to move. Yeah.
sweet right now, and it kills me. Like, like I was looking up some of the parts on Dell, and you're like, okay, I get it. You've got this kind of long-standing relationship with Intel, so you've got way more SKUs with
Yep.
Intel chipsets, but at least we're seeing some support and consideration for
For
AMD.
Ryzen.
Same thing with ASUS.
Yeah.
Some of the new laptops from ASUS are looking really strong, supporting some of the Ryzen chipsets, and I just feel like
Me-
we're even a Surface. Even with the Surface laptop is now supporting. There are like two models, and again with the same BS with, well, you can get them with 8 gigabytes of RAM, and you're like, why make that machine? Don't make that machine. It's like a
It,
waste of unless you're telling me that I can easily pop the back and install
and
more
install
later,
more RAM. Yeah.
which
No,
I
it's
don't think you are.
no,
Um,
no, no. You're married to this. You buy this, you marry it.
oh God, I mean, it's so frustrating. I mean, this is what we were talking about with the iMac last week. I just feel like there are these missed opportunities, and again, I keep struggling because I get
It's an
really excited
upsell.
about,
It's an upsell tactic, though.
but I
Seriously, we
get
got
really
to.
excited about some of this stuff, and then
Yeah.
immediately hit that limit where, oh, but now I can't be excited anymore, and that's a bummer.
I like it. Adam jumping in. Adam from Tech Odyssey is like saying 8 gigabytes of RAM machines
I mean,
aren't Skynet
he
approved.
posted something earlier like skullduggery, 8 gigabytes of RAM is perfect for gaming. That's hilarious. Again, it's like every awesome lame gamer joke, like, well, I mean, the human eye can't even see better than 24 frames per second. Don't you want your game to be more cinematic? That's what movies are showing at.
That's
Why
exactly
would
what
you
I want. I want my gaming experience on
why
Call of
would you
Duty, and
why would
and
you want your game to look like the video or like cheap like a soap opera? Why would you
I
want your
I
video to look that smooth?
I'm one of those weird guys where I like my video games to refresh faster than my eyes can keep up with it. That's the level. Like when you're in a game and you're in the zone and you're seriously like scoping out, you're trying to this is whatever game you're playing, right?
Mhm.
Whatever tactic. And if you need a fast frame rate, you need to be able to enjoy that on the hardware that you're buying. So if you're going to
Yeah.
buy something, don't do this this step tactic where you kind of in there indirectly are forcing us to go to the higher end model
Mhm.
because you give us such a weird combination at the entry level that it's not really usable. Like if you buy that at that level and you can't upgrade it, why would you go for this model? Like, well,
Well,
you shouldn't go to a gaming system with 8 gigs. It makes no sense.
it's frustrating because this is another area of consumer education where you look at these specs and you look at the price tags. Right now, people just need a machine. They just literally a functional computer in their home, and so they end up spending money. Maybe they can't max out their budget to step up to your other tier. They're not fully grokking all of these differences. Like they don't know what what doubling the RAM is really going to mean for them. But then they get that computer in, and it's not really meeting their needs, or it's not as nice as it could have been. You kind of leave it feeling, oh, well, that was a little bit of a disappointment.
Yeah,
And so then when we start looking at the architectural changes for something like the M1, and yeah, it's an ARM style design on this SoC. It drives me crazy that it is like everything is fused into the SoC, your
yeah.
storage, your
It's literally
RAM,
everything: storage, RAM,
everything plugged
all of
in.
that.
But entry level to entry level, 8 gigabytes of RAM is going to run better on the M1 because of the way an ARM chipset functions.
Yep.
You don't have the same kind of overhead. So again, it's like right now, if you're a PC manufacturer and you're relying on Intel and AMD, you are combating a completely different type of platform with the MacBooks and Apple tablets right now.
Yeah.
And those of us that are really nerds about phones have been on ahead of the curve for a while now. Like there's so much more you could be doing here. There's so much more that you can pull out of these little mobile chipsets. Look at this, because there's optimizations that you're missing, and x86 has a legacy problem in
Yeah.
supporting as much stuff as it does. So now if you want something comparable, you're looking at a 16 gigabyte laptop to perform similarly to an Apple M1 with 8
Yeah.
gigabytes of RAM. And that's just the reality. That's just where we're at right now. So
And
trying to pull the same specs. They both have 8 gigabytes of RAM that costs the same. I'm sorry, but the consumer experience doesn't match up the way that it used to.
it's night and day experience shift between the two, and optimization and architecture too. But yeah, you're right. The I think I seriously I think it's a step count, it's a step upgrade tactic that they
It
force you.
is.
For
And
the
it
people that
totally
know what
is.
they're doing, they do that. And then if somebody buys the model and takes it home, it's like, well, this is not as fast. You go back to the store and they're like, well, you could just get the 16 gig model, which would be a few hundred extra more. And so it's a more of an upsell, but and I think we need to make sure that there's education for people to understand what does RAM, what is it about the storage, the type of storage that you're using, how does that actually factor into the experience that you're in. It's not just there for just saying that having 8 gigs is enough. No, not realistically. I know on my one of my system where I had 32 gigs and I was rendering a video when my older laptop that I've been kind of chugging along for the last couple of days to kind of get some videos out. I was running 28 gigs of RAM out of my 32 when I was actually producing. So that, I mean, but then, and I'll say this obviously with the caveat that that was Premiere, so there's not really much I could have said anything about. Premiere is just memory, like literally just gets gobbled up. But once it's done rendering, it releases a lot of it, but
Yeah.
it throws a lot into RAM, and RAM is a big factor. When I had 16 gigs, when I bought that laptop, I had 16 gigs. I doubled my RAM and my render time went down by literally 5 minutes, 6 minutes
Yeah.
from an. So to me was like, wow, this laptop should have been sold with 32, not 16. Uh, but it was again the pricing. That's how they get you, right? The entry
Mhm.
level, the lower end. MSI does great with those little, like the entry level. They'll do a combination, but they don't usually spec it out, right? That goes in for their
Yeah.
elite model and so on. Uh, but
And
you
and
learn.
and and like I said, my Razor got a new lease on life when I switched over to Resolve.
Yeah, so
So
Resolve,
so I was
yeah.
I was doing GPU rendering with, Vegas and with Premiere,
Mhm.
and Resolve cut my render times in half. I mean,
Absolutely, yeah.
it was shocking, but still, that H series Intel back in the day could only support up to 16
16
gigabytes of
gigs.
RAM. And again, I'm starting to feel it more when I'm on that, when it's necessary for me to be mobile and I'm on that old laptop and I'm trying to cut 4K video.
I
And it's like, I'm I'm
I
I'm
fired
kind
up
of
my old one,
I'm
yeah.
kind of pushing it too
I
hard.
felt the chuckle and it takes a little extra few seconds for things to
And
load.
especially for, like, my GPU memory. I,
Yeah.
like, I do not
Oh,
have enough
yeah,
RAM
no, no,
on the
no,
GPU to handle 4K 60 rendering and not
that
have it
laptop doesn't
work.
even, yeah, no, I
Yeah.
think I may have 6 gigs on my video card. It is not, it let's just say this, it was enough for me to hang for a couple of days before I said uncle and bought another motherboard. The RMA process for returning my motherboard. My motherboard, I think for the most part now, I know for sure is the issue. Uh, is going to take, not was, is going to take, according to MSI, not MSI, Gigabyte. There's a 2-week backlog on processing for RMAs, so that's the first step I have to go through. So I'm behind the 2 weeks. So they'll get the hardware. It's not going far, by the way, just from where we are. It's like literally an hour and a half drive if I had just decided to drive it myself, but they wouldn't let me drop it off. They're like, we don't do drop offs anymore. So 2 weeks
That
behind for them
sucks.
to get it, another week and a half or so for them to figure out what's going on, and then contact me to let me know what their solution's going to be. Uh, and then for that,
But
and then wait for
not
them to.
too helpful.
It's very, very non-conducive. Like I asked the person at the time, I said, "Look, um, can't you just give me a credit? I'm within my warranty. We know what's going on. I'll send you the motherboard, but can you at that point just give me a credit towards something else that I can maybe just upgrade myself into a newer board?" They're like, no, we could probably replace it for the exact. If we have it, if we don't, we'll give you the next comparable one, which probably would be a 470 as opposed to a 570. And I'm like, okay, but all of that is going to take so long, and I don't think I can keep producing content on the daily, or at least the 2 or 3 episodes that I do a week uh, with the existing setup, because it's just very, oh my god, it's just so slow, so like
Yeah,
monotonous. It takes so much more time of your day, and I don't have that time. We have day school at home with my son, day job stuff, and all of that. I need my
but that's
systems to
why I've
be,
been telling you to do more from your phone.
and I
Just
need to, but
shoot it all on your phone.
it's the setup though, right? It's like, so content the way I do it right now, for me to shoot it from one
I'm
phone.
just messing
No, no,
with
I did
you. Like,
contemplate the idea when my system went out. I seriously like, look, I have 888 processors that can handle as much as I can throw at them. Obviously, they're going to heat up like heck. I'll have to render these videos obviously in the refrigerator, with my like cooled down. No, no, seriously,
I'm
we
actually
should do an
shopping
episode.
literally right now while you're talking about this. I'm shopping some of those generic phone
Cool.
clip-on coolers.
Get the Red Magic one. That one's actually really good.
The
The
but
the
the
red.
is the Red
The,
Magic one Pogo Pin?
oh no, no, no. It's a USB-C. It's a USB-C connection to your phone. It
Oh,
has its own app, and it's a dual cooler, so it runs multiple. It actually dropped the temperature
let me
on
pull
my.
that
So
up.
it, on my Red Magic video, I did the temperature test on it. So ambient temperature is about 71, like when you're not running it, and then when you turn it on, it dropped it to 49. It seriously was cold, like really cold to the touch. So passive heat, passive cooling is definitely very good. There is a design problem with the Red Magic 6, and I'm not trying to say it's an issue, but it's because the Red Magic 6 has built-in fans. or a fan, right? That's specifically positioned over the CPU.
Mhm.
You can't move the dual core cooler that they sell right above where the CPU heat is generated, which is 90% of where you want the cooling to be. It has to be sitting in the center. So it defeats the purpose of what it's trying to do to provide that cooling. But I feel like that the cooler would work perfectly on other devices that don't have the fans, because you're blocking the fans. That's what I'm trying to say. Is you by
Right,
default
right, right, right.
you block the
Did
intake.
you try taking the Red Magic Cooler and putting it on another phone just
Yeah,
to
no, it works.
all right, then I need to dual
But
core.
but I will say this: it didn't work on every phone. Like on my Xiaomi devices, it worked perfectly fine. Samsung wouldn't work, but you don't have to worry about that. You don't worry about Samsung. Um,
Yeah, I don't mess with Samsung. It's fine.
yeah, I know. No, it. So there's a lot of other things, and if I can see where it is, I don't know where I put it. It has to go back in another. Oh, so before I forget, I brought over. Did you notice that you got the MR2?
Yes, it finally did update on my watch. It
It
happened
up
while I was asleep, and it just reset the watch.
on the morning after you and I were talking. I woke up the next morning and I checked, and it was like MR2 was installed. I'm like, dang it, we checked just last night. We weren't on the no. So
Well,
yeah,
and I wanted to do like shoot some video of like
oh,
kind of poking around
good.
the tick watch without it. Now I can't.
It was yeah. I know the TicWatch is not. But speaking of which, I am playing with their GTH THT
Mhm.
the
Are you
tiny
digging it?
actually, surprisingly, yeah, for 79 bucks, it's quite a compatible, like it's a quite a capable. It's very much a tailored experience. I will say that much, and I
Mhm.
love that word. Uh, it's tailored to the price point. It has a few shortcomings when it comes down to um, like if there's a persistent notification sitting on your phone, like your phone is syncing up, or let's say if your Gmail is syncing up, it's persistent on the watch. The watch mirrors the
Mm.
phone's notifications
Mhm.
to the second. So if Gmail is syncing, that notification stays for 3 seconds, it'll stay on the watch. And then one time I forgot, was it WhatsApp was back in doing a backup, and it took us about a minute. The watch kept buzzing for a minute, and I'm like, and I keep clicking it, dismissing, nope, keeps coming back. So there is some things they can work on, but step counting, exercise time, and all of that, it's actually a quite capable, tracker from Mobvoi, and it definitely works with their app, which is one thing I like. I wish they would fix the timing though. I have no way of changing it to 12 hours as opposed to 24-hour cycle right now. It's just showing 24
Mhm.
hours all the time. So
Gotcha.
right now it is 21:38.
True.
9:30. It's 9:38.
It's accurate. That
It's
is
totally accurate. Military time is the best time. Let's just say that. Um, dude, but yeah, no, there was interesting things going on. I mean, Apple, obviously Samsung's thing was, I felt like could have been a little bit more. Actually, I don't know if it could have been really more exciting. I think they did the best that they could. Um, and it was an announcement. No. I mean, I'm
it's
just
so
saying.
kind of you. They did what they could.
They did the best that they could. I mean, with that. Oh, good night, Adam. Hope take care, man.
Oh,
It
have a good night, Adam. Thanks for dropping by, man.
it's one of those things like you can't. They couldn't really have done that much more. It's laptops, right? It's not smartphones. It's their high end laptop stuff. It's mid range, new upgrade, generational. So short answer is, I'm also trying to remember. Did we ever have Unpacked for their laptops? Did they ever have an
I
event on
don't
their own?
remember one. I'm sure
I,
there's probably been other events for laptops
they
in the
usually,
past, but
if I'm not mistaken, don't they usually get tacked on to like other, in the past they used to be part of some other event. It was never their own. And in Samsung, I think this is getting into the we'll have an announcement or an event every few weeks or so, every few months. So we'll have to see. But it is what it is. I think overall, there was a little bit of a nice little surprise. I don't know if you saw that video Edibon posted about the Infinix, the new budget line gaming phone,
Mhm.
or yeah, that was actually pretty decent. Interesting entry. I've never heard of the brand, so that was interesting to see it. But yeah, I there's a lot of things that I still need to work on now that I have a path forward to fixing my laptop, not laptop, to fixing my desktop. I ordered a replacement motherboard. Hopefully that'll come tomorrow. And so I have to gut the motherboard situation going on. But that was the other thing. The reason why I went from gigabyte to gigabyte is the legacy plugging process into their motherboard it was so seriously like everything was in the same spot. All the wires were in the same spot. The pin connectors, the
Feels
headers.
good when it's
It
like,
was
oh,
so simple. Like
I don't need to change any of my cable management. This is
no. Everything it routed everywhere in the same position. Oh, and but the new motherboard, which I was really excited about, it had shielding on the bottom. Like you know how like motherboards typically are all like bare at the bottom. This has
mhm,
shielding for cooling, so it like heat sinks on the bottom, heat sinks on the top. The back plate entirely one piece. There's no snap-on mechanism to it. Um, it,
that's
it
good. That
it's
feels good.
it does feel really like a very nice refresh into it. And plus, by the way, I gotta gotta clean up it was just a lot of dust in there when I got in there. I don't know where the dust comes from. It's like, seriously, I just don't know where all of that dust goes
It's
into my
pretty
computer
gross,
for some
right? Yeah.
ridiculously disgusting.
Because you're also like, some of this is probably like dead skin cells and stuff
Oh,
because there's
more than like, and
no
for me, it
internal.
probably cat part hairs and stuff. I don't know.
Then also
I,
like, I walk around my house in my socks and then walk into my office and I kind of track in some of that like
you bring in
dirt
some.
and dust. It's like,
No,
it's all gross.
it's. That's how we end the show, guys. Dead
Super
skin
gross.
cells. No, yeah, that's if we ended it any other way, would you want it? Would you be with us for this long? Uh, Michael Peppertech is saying the Infinix Zero 8 is the phone that everyone got. Did one video and forgot about it. Like every other device they got, it's very like they're very new to the market. They're not very known, um, and they're very much into MediaTek style processor, like older.
Mhm.
I want to say processor. They're definitely working the budget side, so I think it's a good solution for if you're looking for a budget phone and you're pinched for on the money and you want to be able to pick up something under $200. I did never had a chance to play with it, so I can't really speak too much. I know Edabon did a video on it, but they're coming along, so we'll have to see what other systems are doing. I did see somewhere though that Honor is going to be releasing their first Snapdragon 888 phone at some point.
Ooh.
So that is very interesting to hear Honor and Snapdragon in the same conversation.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
uh,
I would be kind of curious about that. I'm looking this up. It looks okay.
yeah, no,
A Helio
Infinix.
G90.
Yeah.
That's okay. It's not bad. It's okay.
So Dark Lord Speaks is saying Infinix is kind of set up here in India, and
Mm.
they got some good budget offerings, and I think that's what the general feel for them right now is I think it's
Yeah.
they're more budget friendly. They're very that's their target, which there's nothing wrong with it. You know feed
It's
into whatever.
crazy seeing like all the budget phones that are rocking that Samsung 64 megapixel camera though.
Mhm.
It's a 1/1.73
That's not that
inch
bad.
image sensor. No, I mean like that's the same
Yeah,
image sensor that was on a V60. So I'm sure it doesn't perform as well
I was going
as
to
it
say that
performed on the V60,
it's
but
the post processing is going to be a little bit
I
different.
also a lot of them I don't believe mount it with OIS.
Mhm.
So that
Well,
is
they
one where having a
cut
little
costs.
extra image stabilization helps.
Well, especially for low light. Yeah.
Because you end up with smaller photo sites on the 16 because often you keep that image sensor size for a 12. I mean that's the same sensor size that's in an S21.
Mhm.
So when you pixel bin down and it's a 16 megapixel output,
As opposed to a 12. Yeah.
it does need a little extra help for soaking up light with smaller binned pixel bin.
And I feel like MediaTek's processing power in the Helio side wasn't as good as what they're doing with their Dimensities. Dimensity is where they're rocking, like the Dimensity 1000,
Oh
the
yeah,
Dimensity 12,000, 1200. I
the
think those are the
1200 looks like it's gonna be killer.
yeah
I'm
no
again just like I was with the Velvet last year. Like I am very anxiously awaiting any
any
anything that makes it to our shores with the Dimensity because the
exactly.
1200 looks like it's going to be that next proper step up to give us like somewhere in between 855 and 865 performance.
Oh,
And
I
that
would
to me
probably
right
say
now is a
more.
sweet
I'm
spot.
thinking it's closer to 855, like a little bit better
It
than
depends on how the
865
manufacturer
decides to go with.
bins it
Yeah.
though.
Yeah. No,
Because
no,
again,
exactly.
I'm sure there's going to be different tiers of 1200, just like there were different tiers of 1000.
Mhm.
And a 1000C is still a very capable performer, but the way that it was implemented in the Velvet, it's only a little bit better than a 765. So that
Exactly.
I kind of think is going to be the same situation. Like you'll get a 1200, it might not be binned to outperform an 865 though.
It'll be one of those things we gotta check out. I had a chance to play with one of them on the Reno 5 Pro 5G. So that was
Mhm.
running at Dimensity 1000, and actually, it's surprisingly very nice for what it's capable of, for processing power, and it is really comparable like to what around like the 855. But you wouldn't have known it honestly. But then when you go to Helio truly does feel a little bit less like you notice the system struggles a little bit, but the 1000 wasn't doing that. Like, for some reason it operated correctly. So MediaTek has come along a lot since like the last few years when they started talking about trying to truly compete in the
Mhm.
in the realm of mobile devices with 5G and better implementation. I mean, I
Yeah,
think they're
it's been good.
still they're good and they're budget friendly. That's the best way to look at it, really.
Well, and seeing something like this, I mean, there are a number of those other brands. Like I really liked my CoolPad. We're talking about a phone that you would get free from an MVNO. Like
Mhm.
if you paid full price MSRP, I think it was like $190. So handling one of those, and when you keep your expectations in check. Same thing with the Stylo 6. Like if you
Yeah.
paid full price for a Stylo 6, you probably overpaid, but it was really easy to find a bunch of low-cost carriers giving that phone away. And you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's a little stuttery. It's not the smoothest performer, but like I was still streaming my 4K Blu-ray rips on a really nice bigger screen. I feel like in that ballpark and you get it on a good sale, you're well you're well taken care of for your smartphone basics.
No, exactly. And
So
I think Dark Lords was also talking about the fact that I think the Vivo 21 V21 had a Dimensity
oh,
1000U.
1000U. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's I never got to play with that variant of the 1000. I got the 1000C.
Yep.
And I feel like that was their compromised version of the
C for
phone.
compromised. Yes, I see how you worded
See
that
how I
one.
played that? I'm pretty smooth. So I just wanted to wrap this up, man, because like
Yeah,
we kind of every week sort of loosely touch on it, but like let's just make it a part of how we wrap the show. What are you
absolutely.
playing right now? I mean, I harassed you about Undead Horde, and I feel like you probably got like a good run on that.
I did.
You kind of move on.
I've been mostly playing PC stuff till Tuesday. Season 3 dropped, so that was the problem for me. So Season 3 on Call of Duty came in. I have been also playing Season 3 on mobile Call of Duty Mobile. So those have been
Mhm,
primarily what I've been focusing on. But I am looking to try to find something new, something a little bit more exciting. 2077 Cyberpunk's getting a better update this. I think it was the last couple of days. To some
mhm.
improvements. I was going to dig that a little bit. Uh, but I think it got wrapped around the axle with the computer now that it just
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much of my like how much of an epicenter of work in there, and I need to work better at redundancy on my data points. Like I shouldn't really be housing a lot of my data on that PC like the way I had it, because that
Mhm.
would have been a much easier transition to use the laptop just to try to transition. But gaming wise though, what are you playing right now? Have you tried anything new?
So I'm kind of burning myself out on Dead Cells
Okay.
with the DLC. I
Hmm.
like it's kind of the perfect game for me because it's just you're gonna die a whole bunch. So if I get 10 minutes, or like, hey, Lex is in school and I'm waiting for a video to finish rendering, and I've got like literally like I
10
might
minutes.
game for 10 minutes right now, and I can just pop it up, go through a couple little maps, get my ass handed to me, then just like kind of get on with my day. But I just fired up. It's a game that I've been wanting to visit.
Hmm.
Because I have a love-hate relationship with like the Dark Souls
Okay.
kinds of games. And so on Android, I believe it's on other platforms too. Pascal's Wager
Okay.
is a pretty competent Souls clone
Hmm.
that runs really well on Android, even with the graphic settings turned up pretty high. I mean, it looks like last console style graphics. The
Hmm.
game is obviously a bit more sort of linear, like
Hmm.
how it forces you down your route. And again, it's infuriating. It's almost unplayable on touchscreen, as far as and
Even
I'm
your
good
control.
at Dead Cells on a touchscreen. Like I don't connect my controller to play Dead Cells anymore because I kind of like this is Dead Cells on hard mode is playing it on a touchscreen. Trying to play a Souls style hack and slash, you're gonna die a whole bunch. No, you
No,
can't. But it's got really good controller support, so I've been firing
exactly.
that up, and I've been hitting that one a little harder just because it's infuriating how difficult those kinds of games are. Parry, block, attack, parry, block,
Oh, good.
parry, parry, block. Oh, this is like Dance Dance Revolution, but with like like
So, question
evil
for you:
minions.
with controllers, do you play the controllers connected wirelessly or wired?
The controller I'm spending almost all. Is it in here? Oh, I think I've got it out in the living room because I was playing Pascal's Wager. I really like my Steel series.
Hmm.
So I've got a Steel series Duo,
Okay.
and it comes with a little USB transmitter so that you
Okay.
can use it as a PC controller.
Control. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what we use on our Nook when
Hmm.
it's kind of tucked behind our TV.
Hmm.
And then you flip a little switch on the controller and it can go to Bluetooth, or you
Bluetooth
can
wired.
connect it over USB. So
GameSir does that something like that. And so I use the Raiju. I like
yep,
Razer's approach
mhm,
to things. So Raiju
that's
does
good.
really nice, and I also use their for their controllers on the phone. It's usually just like USB-C connected. Mostly because when you're playing games like you were mentioning, I feel like latency could actually be a big factor. And I wait if you win or lose, even though it's an
It might
older
be.
style. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're trying to hit that right combo, but you're like, but I just got
Uh,
kicked. I'm like, what
uh,
happened?
uh,
Yeah. Wired
it,
all the
it it
way.
doesn't mess me up on like so going over Bluetooth. It seems to do fine on Dead
Mhm.
Cells. It wasn't an issue on like twin stick shooters
Mhm.
like Neon
Like
Chrome
Neon Chrome
or
or Undead
Tesla
Horde.
versus Lovecraft
Yep.
or Undead Horde. Especially not on Undead Horde because Undead Horde isn't twitchy. Tesla versus Lovecraft is twitchy.
Yeah.
Like you need to navigate the map and teleport and dodge fire. Undead Horde is way more about directing
Horde.
your zombies to go and attack other things, and then you can
Well,
evade.
resurrecting and yeah,
Yeah,
directing,
it's
resurrecting,
more
managing. It's
management
more
than
in
it is
managing. Yeah, exactly.
immediate
You
attack and
you
evade.
you gotta work, and it's very staged activity. It's like when you're as they're
Every map
killing you.
is a puzzle to solve pretty much.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
how do
So
I
it's
go about attacking? Then I got to defend. Now I've got to fall back. Well, I can just go back and recharge. Okay, let me just
yeah,
go back and recharge.
yeah. Or get
The
your ass handed
the
over, and then you get resurrected.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, because
I had a lot. Yeah,
you're already dead, so it's fine.
that's usually how it is.
The Pascal's wager is so much more precise. I mean, I think you might be right. One of the issues might be playing it over Bluetooth, but the general controller support has been really good.
Yeah. No.
Uh,
I'm
so
loving Android. We're not in the back in the day where we always need to have those mappers. Remember, we need to download a mapping application to configure the controller
yeah,
to basically replicate touches on the display because that's the only way to use a controller. But that still actually happens with like emulators and so on. But that amendment, like for like regular games supporting controllers, that's always nice.
mhm.
And especially playing first person shooters, anything that like alleviates having to be in front of the display, like your fingers covering different parts, that can
But
always help.
that's also the reason why I've been sticking with the Steel series though, is because it is like a proper controller. It's
Mhm.
not like two grips that
Yeah,
you attach to the side of the
some
phone.
some some games that the grips work well, but not all of the games. I
For
feel like
me,
yeah,
it's still the handful of games that it's still the handful of phones that I like to play where I might want to connect to audio.
it is. You're right.
And
Or
those
or even
snap-on controllers always block where I'm gonna plug in some headphones. The V60 still gets. I mean, it doesn't have my SIM card right now, so it's not like a daily driver, but it still gets some pretty decent play. And what I
Mhm.
like is that the Steel series is a regular controller with a mount that clips the phone and then leaves the sides, the speakers, and the headphone jack all
uncovered.
totally free and accessible. So that's why I tend to give most of my time to I mean, my controller of choice is that
The
Steel
Steel
series.
series. Well, I like that. I like it. Um, so with that being said, I feel like we're kind of reaching our certain level of
Yeah, we
uh,
ran long.
we ran a little bit longer than usual, which is fine. And I think that's usually because we haven't had a chance to kind of catch up with each other also for about a week now. Um, what's going on with you? What's happening up for the next couple of days? I mean, I know you dropped the aperture video this morning. What's some of the stuff that you're working on for this
Oh,
week later, or maybe
yeah. So
if you can tease us a little bit?
ultrasone is shot. The ultrasone performance 880s. So those are like $400 headphones, and I'm
Nice.
really stoked I got to give them a spin. I'm gonna try something a little different with that video, where it's less like, let me tell you all about them, because they are a little older. Like this
Yeah.
is a brand that's really well established, and I'm catching up with them. So instead, I'm gonna try and do a bit more of a listening party, like talking through more like, as I started listening to these headphones, I started leaning towards these genres of music, as
Ah.
opposed to, oh, these are the specs and these are the drivers and this is the kind of cable and this is how you use, and look at this headband. Like, I just don't care anymore. Like,
Hmm.
that's it's fine if that's the kind of video you want to watch. It's not the video I want to keep making over and over and over and over again. So instead, I'm going to try and start turning these more into, hey, I was listening to these on these headphones and it took me down a deep dive on like classic Motown.
Hmm.
And that's where I ended up. I don't know how I got there, but that's what I was rocking Aretha Franklin sick on
Nice.
these 880s. So that's the spoiler. One of the things that I arrived on. And then I don't know that I'm going to be able to do this weekly or even monthly, but after doing that aperture video, I really feel like I've got to kind of exercise some of my demons in healthier ways. And so I
Hmm.
want to talk more about tips and tricks.
Yeah.
I want to talk more about how to use these phones. Like, I keep saying it, but maybe it's time I just, do it.
Okay.
Um, and so I'm planning like a series of these videos that will also complement my book.
Hmm.
So we're going to talk about shutter speed. There are some great chapters in my book. Maybe I also need to put together like a 2 to 3 minute video just talking about like, this is what happens when you change your shutter, or this is what happens when you let the phone choose that for you. So that's gonna be the near term focus,
I like it.
is covering some of that stuff. And then lastly is just wrapping up my contest. So in
For the
talking
road
about,
video, was it the
yeah,
road? Yeah, the video of the
the
vlogger.
video mic me C.
Yeah, the one that
So
comes with the vlogger kit. Yeah.
I have the one that's 3.5 millimeter, because it came as part of the vlogger kit.
Hmm.
Rode is now selling the standalone. And so they're hooking up a mic to give away on
Nice.
my phone challenge. And I'm talking to Scott, technically speaking,
Hmm.
about maybe taking up the next, like, if we can make this a round robin.
Hmm.
Every month, someone does a phone challenge on their channel, and we all kind of try to support them.
Yeah.
So he might try and do one after my video's done and my contest is over, and I'll be announcing a winner on the Monday morning podcast after this weekend. Um,
SGQA as usual.
I think we're going to pass it over to Scott for a challenge in May, and
Okay.
see if we can do something fun. And then I think we need to get you on board for June.
You got it.
And you got to challenge the audience to do something with their phone that they might not have considered doing. It could be
Absolutely.
like a gaming challenge or a video challenge or an audio challenge. I even want to do like a writing challenge, like write a short story on your phone using Google Docs or something
Google
like
Docs,
that.
edit. Yeah, no, again, edit, proofread, use all the tools that you can. I think it's totally, yes. Uh, like I said, I contemplated the idea because Matt threw it at me and he's like, TK, we could definitely use our phones. And I'm like, yeah, no, I agree with you. I just, for the things that I needed to do, it would have been, it needs, so you got to
No excuses anymore,
appreciate,
TK. No, no
it's a
more.
workflow. It's a
We're doing
workflow
it.
thing.
Well, we're gonna
Plus,
figure that workflow out. That's
yes,
what we're gonna help other people do. And along
exactly.
the way, I think we'll be better people too. We'll learn. We'll
We will
grow.
be better people. We'll
What
be.
what do you got coming up? Because
Uh,
you've
I
been
kind of
rocking
like
way
just
more phones than I have
I
this year.
it's yes to a point where I feel like it's um so the Mi 11i kind of thing just came out today. I need to finish the ROG versus Red Magic 6 because the Red Magic 6 I think I have about a week left on it before it goes back or it goes
Mhm.
to the next person. Because Red Magic that typically cycles their hardware a lot faster than others.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm focusing on. I do need to push this video tomorrow. Hopefully, that video goes up pretty early. The Ozbot Me 2, the Ozbot Me, the Obspot, not Ozbot, Obspot. I got to say that right. It's the OBS BOT.
It
So
is
it's
not the OBS.
yes, it it isn't OBS.
That's
Then
so
why?
funny.
but it's just the name doesn't roll off. That's my only thing. Like from
Hilarious,
a brand,
bro.
they say, what company is it? It's the OBSpot. I'm like, how do you spell that? OBS.
But that
Oh, it's not.
cracks me up so much.
So that video I'm actually kind of excited about, because when I put it up and I did test it out, it actually worked quite well. So primarily that I do need to finish the Huawei Studio. Huawei hit me up again, and I've been kind of a little bit late on that. So that actually going to be coming up on my channel both in English and Arabic, because I think there's a lot of Arabic followers that like Huawei in the Middle East. So it seems to be more accessories focused within the next couple of days, but I don't mind it. The Q35s were a very pleasant pair of headphones to play with, and I really am very, very pleased with what Soundcore is doing. I like what they're doing. I realize what they're doing, obviously, with the Q35s. It's like the way the approach to this, down to the case.
Yeah.
It was just like, like seriously, if you had blindfolded me, I would have told you it was a different pair of headphones. But they're definitely doing it at the right price. I think that's what they're going to be compelling story for everybody that looks at Soundcore right now. So that's what's going to come up for me, and hopefully next time we talk, my PC's back up and running normally, and I'm playing more Call of Duty.
I'm pulling.
That was
for
a
you,
scare.
bud.
That was a scare, man. That was a scare, especially when the lady said your CPU could have been damaged. And I'm like, why would my CPU be damaged by a BIOS update?
What did you do?
And I'm like, yeah, what was this BIOS update? Like, what does it do? So I'm hoping that they can fix it, but I am going to call them back in the next couple of days. Not next couple of days, but just want to talk a little bit, because I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who's ever installed a ROM driver. Especially like BIOS update, where it could have potentially fried a $600 or $550 processor. And when I bought it, it was at retail. Now you can't even find it at retail. So yeah, so we'll have to see. But I want to say thanks to everybody, of course. Gary, Aditya, Ranesh, Michael Peppertech, Dark Lord Speaks, and of course, Michael. I think it was another Corcoran as well.
Yeah,
and I think if I'm,
no,
I
paused.
He's
already gone to bed.
Yeah, Adam. It is running a little bit late. I forgot.
The Twitch.
Adam is on the other side. Stay cool, my friend. That's all I can say to you, Juan. Stay cool. Take care. Stay hydrated. I made a mistake today and went walking in the heat. That was a mistake, especially since I can't drink water during the day. So luckily I wasn't too bad, but yeah, no, it was a mistake. I thought I could handle it. So I'm staying indoors tomorrow. Let's just say that much.
We're going to keep it chill.
Yeah, definitely. And then we'll be back next week for another episode for best of our week. So we're going to actually end it right on 2 hours and 1 minute, and we're not going to let it go to 2:02. Take care, everybody. Be safe. Stay safe. Make sure to catch SGGQ on Monday, and Juan Carlos and myself next week. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bam.